Welcome to the DMF. I'm Justin Younts. This is all the parts together. Welcome to the DMF. I have an Italian filmmaker who has just released a mini-series on Apple TV where she looked at Andrew Cuomo from the lens of how regular New Yorkers see the situation. It is comprised of 5 episodes. It's called This Is What New Yorkers Say, each one detailing a different subject. Please welcome to the DMF, Sara Alessandrini, or La Salva dot Alessandrini.
La
If you want
Salva,
to
yeah,
hear her,
that's
yeah,
that's that's my nickname because I have like a French R, so I cannot pronounce Sarah like Sarah properly.
yeah.
So I
Oh, is that
became
where that came
Sava.
from?
Yeah, I became Sava. But then because I'm from the north of Italy, like we always put like the before the
Oh.
name of the person. So I became like the Sava. So that's in Italian is La Sava.
So,
So
so
but
what part of like Italy is that like in?
I'm from kind of the north. It's like the south of the north. So
Okay,
it's
cool.
kind of like three-quarter up. So near Bologna.
Bologna.
So
Okay, cool,
it's a
cool.
city called Cesena, but it's like near Bologna, I guess.
My mother's descendants, I think they're from a little town outside of Rome, I think.
Mm.
So just to give you a little of that. So yeah, so like tell me a little bit about growing up in Italy. How did that shape you as a filmmaker?
Well, I never felt I belonged to Italy, honestly. Like I always felt I
Really?
was meant to be in this country since I was a kid. Like I was just madly in love. Like all I cared when I was a kid, it was like watching movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
I didn't really like doing kids type of things, like being around people. I just like
Yeah.
love watching movies more than anything else. Then eventually I tried to force myself to
Yeah.
be around people because I was like, oh, maybe there is something wrong with me that I care about
Yeah.
movies more than I care about human beings.
Yeah.
So then I became kind of obsessed of like understanding human beings because I guess that's what kind of like pushed me. As
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
kid, I didn't really understand how other people function, how they thought, both kids and both like adults. So I guess that's where to me like not really understanding why other people were behaving the way they were behaving, both adults and kids. I was like watching so much movies because to me movies made sense. Because you know
Yeah.
when you have to
Yeah.
write a script, you have to it needs to make sense. So you cannot
Yeah.
just like suddenly the main character does something that there is no reason why that. So you have to explain everything in a way. So to me, it was like, oh, that's why this person is messed up
Yeah.
because they went through this, and that. And so movies for me were always that way that for me was like helping me understand human beings and other
Yeah.
people. So that's how I started.
So that was it. So that's what it was with movies. Just that kind of this makes sense. Was
Yeah.
there a certain film that would like? Did you gravitate toward Italian cinema or did you
It was
gravitate
always
toward
American. Yeah.
American? So
Yeah,
all
to
right.
me it
So
was like American movies. Like I mean I love like comedies from the 80s. So
yeah.
maybe that's why I don't really belong to this Me Too era because like I was
Yeah.
raised with movies from the 80s,
Uh,
not politically correct. So now when
yeah.
I hear like you cannot say this, you cannot say that, I'm
Oh yeah,
like
I'm completely with you on that. Like, to me, movies need to, behave in this world where it's like they're not really part of society. They need to be kind of critiquing society, but they need to like, I've always loved like George Carlin, you always are going up to that line. So it's like this idea of like this is now taboo, and it's like, well, since you're saying it's taboo now I kind of want to like walk right over that line or whatever. Like was it Tropic Thunder with Robert Downey Jr. Like now
yeah.
that scene is this bad thing, but it was like it's like it's funny the way he did it. I mean, it,
But
it
that's
was
always like
acceptable then.
but that's also the point. Like I like one of like my Christmas movie for me is
Yeah.
Trading Places,
Oh,
which
really?
like in America it's not the thing, but in Italy, Trading Places is the Christmas movie more than anything else. Like the whole country of Italy on the 24th, there is always the same time, same channel for like the past 25 years. That movie is played. Trading Places. That's
Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and
and Eddie
Eddie Murphy.
Murphy. Yeah,
That's
that's the one for us. But also like it shows you like Italy is a little less politically correct country than this one.
I
Like
love that though. I know in New York, the IFC Center, sometimes they'll do this like movie festival where they'll show like unlikely Christmas movies. Like so you
okay,
got like Die Hard. One of my favorites is Eyes Wide Shut. because it takes place at Christmas time in Batman Returns.
Yeah, but that's the thing about like when I was watching, like when I was working in a different company before, like, and
Yeah.
we were suggesting what movie should we show for the Christmas party. I said Trading Places, and we did. And then the people were saying it was a racist movie, and I'm like, but
Really?
that's the point of the movie, to be like the two guys are racist on purpose, and the good guys fight them. So it's
Yeah.
fighting against racism of those
Yeah.
two guys. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
trading
that's the
places. We're seeing the two of them. Yeah.
yeah, like you cannot pretend racism never existed. That's
Yeah.
like
That's the sad
so
thing we're seeing now is like the whitewashing, and you see it on kind of both sides, where both sides want to take away this part, and then both sides want to take away that. That's the one frustrating thing that I just find. It's just like movies need to be, they're a part of history in some ways. When you watch an older film, you watch a movie from the 70s, you get an idea of like what people were feeling at that time. Same thing with the 80s, same thing with the 90s. So it's like to just censor that because we don't agree with that in 2025. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really understand like some of the trigger, like, trigger warnings or whatever. Like you will go on Disney
yeah.
Plus and it like, I'm trying to watch the movie and it's like a thing comes up, a disclaimer, and it's like, okay, I don't need that. I just want to go right into the movie. I don't, I don't want more advertising. Just bring me the movie, but
Yeah,
it's
and there is no safe way to do it. Like I was working
no.
at a different place that was doing a lot of events and we had screenings. So
Yeah.
then the guy that was programming that then he felt like, okay, I have to give a warning if there is something that right now it's not appropriate anymore, if it's an old movie or something. But then the people complained because they say, oh, now you ruined the movie for me because you
Yeah.
gave this warning. And then I was like thinking about that the whole time. But then if you don't give the warning, there is that person who's like, oh, I was triggered by it. So there is
Yeah.
no way to
It's
to do
it's
it
it's
right.
funny. It's like I remember when they re-released Scarface one year. They showed like at the beginning like a little thing there, and they pretty much show the ending. And somebody in back goes, "Well, I guess that's how it ends." But putting it back to what you're saying um, about trigger warnings, yeah, like do we just tell you that this content is coming out, or do you want the specific scene that is happening? To me, that ruins the movie. If we
Yeah.
tell you at 2 minutes and 55 seconds, so and so is going to pull out a knife and pull this out, and they're going to hold it to the. It's like, I mean, like, how far, because it's not expressed like how far this can go, and without talking about how far it can go, it's like, well, what are we gonna do? We're gonna sit there and be like giving, pretty much giving away the movie to somebody. I mean, I don't know. It's sad in this country because most people don't even turn off their phones in movies now.
Yeah.
It's like just seeing the light up thing. It's like what am I gonna do? Go up to every single person? Say, can you please turn off your phone? But
Yeah.
so what specific, was there like a specific film that spoke to you that you said, "Oh, yeah," or was it a combination of a bunch of things?
I mean, I always loved like TV shows
Yeah.
better in general. Like I grew up watching some soap operas too, so probably didn't do great to my brain.
Oh, wow.
So now
Yeah,
I'm
soap
like
operas.
always
Yeah.
like expecting like weird stuff in life to happen. But I mean, I guess the Lord of the Rings, but that was a little later at that
Yeah.
point. Was very important to me.
Yeah.
So that was already when I was maybe like 16, 17,
Mm.
which that's when I started more thinking about making
Yeah.
movies like part of my life. Like I always like dreamt about movies. I knew in my future had a
Yeah.
vision that there would be like movies would be had some role in my life, I guess.
Yeah.
But coming from the place where I come from, it's just like still a city. It's a small city, but it's not a typical place where like people have those kind of careers. So I never thought I could really work in the movie industry because you have to go to Rome for that, or you have to be in Milan. There is really no other place. Yeah, there are like some smaller reality, but then you might just end up being like more like a critic of cinema more than
Yeah.
actually making it if you go to like Bologna. So
Yeah.
it's a different thing. So I never thought about that until like a teacher of mine in high school was like, "Oh, you should be a director." And at that point, I was like, I kind of like acting more. But
Well,
then I
yeah.
was, Yeah, I like acting. Like,
So you did do some acting. Okay,
well, I
interesting.
don't know if I don't think I did some acting, like just like theater when I was like in high school,
Okay,
stuff like that. And it's Italy, so it's experimental theater. We're not talking about theater like it is here.
okay. Like when you say experimental theater, what do you mean by experimental theater?
It means like you don't even understand what's going on.
Okay, I like
Like
that.
I remember like one like we started this thing where like, okay, you have to be there and then pretend to have pull a cord, and then
Yeah.
suddenly you have to pull it, and then you stay there and think, and then there is you're like in a train station and stuff like that, you're going so stuff that like
But that's good training for an actor because you're forced to react as opposed to just sitting there, with the
yeah, I mean it was
knowing
great.
what's going to happen. So that's awesome. Um,
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's I was thinking about that. I liked acting, but then this guy, the teacher of mine, was like, "Oh, you should be a director." I never really thought about that in
yeah,
that sense, but I already started on my own. Like when I was like 15, I guess I bought my first camera. So I just like as a pirate, I was illegally downloading like all the software back then. It was like then you couldn't really buy them, so you would just like download them and then I would just learn all the editing software by myself, like Avid, Premiere, all the others. So
so
I
kind of
just
like
learned.
Werner Herzog, where you're just kind of doing this. Like I'm going out guerrilla filmmaking. Let's get it done.
Yeah, like I was just like on my own, like even just like filming my family, just editing, so learning editing by myself. So then I started that. Then the Lord of the Rings, I just loved it. But I love like learning everything behind, like I mean, like all the world that they had to build, like
Yeah,
the scenes, like the weapons, the monster, like everything, and like those people lived there in New Zealand for like years.
I
So
know it
like
took a long time.
yeah, it was like they would not like they would put their life behind and they would just start suddenly like live this new life for like different people, different customs and everything. And they had to learn so many different things because they had to learn like horse riding, they had to learn
Yeah, I'm.
canoeing,
It's
fighting.
amazing that that film did not get like screwed up somehow. That those three films somehow were like able to just be like studios left them alone and like you said, all the stuff that they had to learn and everything. It's like it's
Yeah.
I don't to me filmmaking is so fragile because it's like it can get screwed up in so many ways. It's like everything
So many
everybody
things can go wrong, yes.
yeah, everything could go wrong and you can have like the perfect film and it can get screwed up in editing. And they're like, "Wait a minute, that wasn't what I filmed. What did you do? Get out."
Yeah. So then I was like, well, like it's so
Yeah,
beautiful, like that you end up living so much life. So to
yeah,
me, movies is more about the life you end up living through the movie. So it was always like that fascinated me. It's really the understanding of life, like learning new things, learning, meeting new people. So that what really excited me about it was not necessarily what people feel like
yeah,
yes, but how much like you can do where with
yeah,
like the movie, how much you can give to people like in their life, and like for me how much I learned through movies.
yeah,
So to me it was I always had when I was watching movies I always had this very active like I was not passive just like sitting and watching movies. Like I mean there was a summer where I was like, let's see how many movies I can watch over the next 3 months, and I think I
wow.
watched like 90 movies or something.
90 movies. Wow,
Yeah, like some days I
kind of
did
a
like
being.
one day I got 5 movies in a day, but that was back when I was still like I guess
Wow.
like obsessed with movies. Then now in the last few years I haven't watched any movies pretty
When
much.
Oh, really? Like when the Marvel movies came out, they did like a whole series of them. They did like 18 movies and they showed it in a movie theater. So I had to sit in a movie theater for like 3 days, and
Oh my god.
that was hard because we're like
Sorry.
all waiting to see the new Marvel film, but we're like waiting in a movie. It was kind of cool because you could bring in food and everything. It was like you lived in a movie theater. I think what was it? The one in New York had one where it was like they actually had showers and stuff. So they gave you
Really?
they gave you toothbrushes and everything. So it's kind of cool. But that's amazing. 90 movies. I love that.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so where did you go to school?
so then I went to Rome, you know Cinecittà, it's the
Mm,
main place in Rome. So my school was inside there.
mm.
And so yeah, it was a private school, but I mean, that school was something else.
Yeah.
It was like, have you ever watched The Great Beauty?
I
It's
know of the film,
Italian.
but I haven't seen it. But yeah,
Okay, yeah, because like it's an Italian movie like from Sorrentino where
yeah,
the main character writes a book and then he
yeah,
moves to Rome and then he never writes anything anymore because once he moved to Rome, it just lost inspiration. He just ended up like living life, doing so many things, and that's what actually for us that we moved to Rome. Like before, we always were like
yeah,
introspective. We wanted to write so many things. We've moved to Rome, and then you're just like so busy doing other stuff, living life,
yeah,
meeting people, that then you even forget about writing.
yeah.
So that was very weird because
And
like
people
we all
forget about
experience.
that. You need that solitude to write. You
Yeah,
can't just sit there and be surrounded by the beauty. It's like the favorite. What is it? The thing. The guy goes in the coffee shop and he's got his computer and he's doing everything there. The only thing he's not doing is actually writing.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
but
just
that's
okay. Wait, yeah,
yeah, but that's what it was. Like at my school, like there
yeah,
was so much drama because apparently, like it was a fairly good school when
yeah,
before my time. I guess my first year was the last year that the school was still good. But apparently, the teachers, so like I don't know if it was the vice president or the president, someone was stealing money. So the teacher at a certain point were not getting paid for 2 years, but they still
wow,
kept going every day to still teach because they loved it and because. They were like, "Oh, but we are friends with the
yeah,
management because they used to be maybe like students of the previous school, and then they became
yeah,
teacher of this school when they created a new school." But some of them kept going to work for 2 years without ever getting paid, with the hope that they would get paid. And so there was like all this thing, all this crazy thing that were happening. And like the first year was still fine, but then the second year I started becoming friends with the teacher.
yeah.
I was like, I was friend with everybody, people of the year before me, people of the year after me. So I knew all the gossip. So I was just like in this school, it was just so fun to be there because there was so much drama. And you were trying to figure out, okay, well, like they were not paying Cinecittà, apparently. They were not paying the bills, but they were still here functioning in
So
the school.
how did they? Yeah, it's like
Yeah, I mean, we were paying like, and for like Italy, it was like high
yeah,
paid school, obviously, like very low for what Americans pay
right.
normally for school. But it was like they were getting money from the students. They still had students. Where were all the money going? So I mean, it was crazy. Like, and I was always there when bad stuff would happen. So it was
Yeah.
like crazy. Like one time they stole the only good computer, like
Wait, what?
of the school. It was crazy. And like so I after like the first second year, then like I was working with some projects, so even if I was not a student anymore, I was still
Yeah.
going there to the school. And I was like editing, so at that point they trusted me, and so I could get the key to open the place because I was working
So
with the
you were going there for filmmaking.
yeah, like at that point I was
Okay.
editing. So because
Oh,
I was
okay.
working with the president of the school, I was editing for him, and then they put me in charge of editing of another documentary, which also that was about politics. So I would go there using the facility, and one time they asked me to open the school because it was like a holiday or something like that, and
Yeah.
they asked me to open the school for the students, and they were going to hire me at that point. So,
Yeah.
but even there, I was like, I love it here, would like to be hired, but I know they're not never gonna pay me. So I wasn't sure, but I was still like doing that. And so so it was crazy. So I was opening the school for them, and then at the end of the night I was closing. But again, any teacher could get the key because it was inside Cinecittà, so you would not have your own key necessarily. You would go to Cinecittà, ask them the key, and they would give it to you. So
Oh,
and
so
one
they
of
gave
the
you the key.
yeah, like I could get the
Yeah.
key. So at that point I was leaving because everybody was out, but there was still one of the teachers out there. And so I was like one of the teacher. He was one of like the partners of the school.
Yeah.
And then the day after, I go back to the school. I open it. I enter. Everything seems normal. I turn, and the only good computer, the only Mac, because they only had like bad old equipment at that point, because they didn't have money to buy new stuff. So there was one good computer. I go in, I turn, and the computer is not there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like now they're gonna think it's me, it's my fault because I was here, I closed,
Yeah.
I opened. I was like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen now? The
It's like
president
I
can't,
didn't take it.
yeah, I was like,
It's like I
like
promised, and they're like, well, who else did?
so And having like a very reactive mother, I grew up like, even if I make a very small mistakes, I'm always afraid of like, oh, they're gonna blame me
Yeah.
for everything. The president arrives. I tell him what happened, that the computer disappeared, and he was like yelling at himself, but
Yeah.
nothing. They didn't even ask me anything. They didn't even like said
Yeah.
anything to me. They just said like, okay, what did I know? That's it. Because I guess it was so obvious. They had so many enemies that they
Yeah.
just expected that to happen. So it was like, I was so afraid like I would get blamed for this. Nothing.
Now,
They didn't even care because they knew they
now,
had
now,
enemies.
now, now going back, you quit something that you were originally doing. Like I think it was like telecommunications. Is that what you were doing
Yeah, electronic
originally?
and telecommunication. Yeah, like I was doing engineering then.
So this is after
After.
you quit
Yeah.
that. What
Yeah.
what kind of led you to that, and how did you decide that I want to be a filmmaker? Was that all part of like when you saw Lord of the Rings? Was Lord of the Rings kind of the thing that like
Well, Lord of the Rings was like, I guess, was when I was in high school. So at the end of
okay,
high school, I was like, oh, I think I would like to go to Rome and study movies. But
yeah,
again, like just the
you
way
did
I
the
was raised, I didn't feel very confident about myself that I could just leave like
yeah,
Rome was not that far, 3 hours away, but it felt abroad because Italy is so
yeah,
different, each region. So even being like 3 hours away it feels like so much. And like I had a very overprotective mother, so like she
yeah,
was never like thinking me by myself. Which
yeah.
now I've been in Australia, I've been here, like now
I know
she
you've
doesn't.
gone all over the place.
Now I've been all over the place. But back then it was like a big deal for her because she was like, no, absolutely not. Like a lost girl, like a lost girl like you by herself. No, 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 don't
Yeah,
even think about it. So, but then I was like, I'm gonna just studying engineering because I in my high school I was graduating in electronic and telecommunications.
yeah,
Because in Italy we have a different system where actually you can pick a major, and so you're already like learning stuff
yeah.
when
You're
you're
not
like
like
in
it's
high
not like
school.
here where it's like a cumulative, where you kind of
Yeah,
keep doing this stuff. You can, if you're picking, engineering, you can gear all your classes towards that.
yeah, and it's a different school. So it's not the same school with different classes that you pick. It's a different school. Like you go to a
Oh,
specific school
okay.
that is like it has only those majors. Like so, there is the main one, which is the generic one. Then there is one. The generic one could be either more scientific
Yeah,
or more like classical, like where you learn Greek, you learn Latin, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But then you have like those other type of like high schools. So those are something that it's not a vocational. I guess it's kind of
yeah.
like a vocational, but it's still like it's in between. It's like between a generic high school and a very practical school. And then we have the other ones that are also very vocational, that are very
So,
specific.
so did engineering, did that, do you think that engineering kind of like prepared you for anything in film? Or did you think it was like a whole waste of time?
Not a waste of time. I mean,
Okay.
engineering off and off. Like high school, it was actually much better than engineering. Like we learned so much more because like the
Okay.
problem, the problem of like university in Italy is that it's so theoretical. So like I did like all the 3 years that you go to engineering. I just didn't do all the exams because it's different. Like in Italy, you go to the class and then you have to take the exam. If you don't pass the exam, you have to take, like, you keep it. You can repeat it whenever you want or you keep it. So,
Mm.
3 years of engineering in Italy, usually it's like 5 or 7 years
Oh,
because
wow.
people cannot take all the exam there because they're very difficult. So, it's very different system than here. We're like, okay, you give, at the end, you do your quiz, your test, and you do your homework and you're good. Like there it's a big exam, and so it's complicated, so people like don't pass all the exam every year. But I went to the school throughout like all the years that I was support. I did all the
Yeah.
classes. I just didn't finish the exams. So but the problem is like we never did anything practical. while in high school we were always creating like the circuits, like we were soldering with like punching holes in the
Wow.
motherboard, like we were really doing,
So
we
you're
were
like
like,
really getting your hands.
yeah, yeah, like we were like go like AutoCAD or like the various softwares. So we would like plan where the components go.
Oh,
Then
wow.
someone prints the things. So we were doing that. It was very practical. Like even and we had different classes. We had the electricians one. So there was also the lab where like you have like your outlet. You have to connect it to the light. And then you have to connect it to the switch. So we were doing that kind of stuff in high school. So you really learn how even building house works in a way.
And
And
you're
then
saying, and then when you get to college, it was just like
like yeah,
theoretical,
theory.
the
So
opposite.
yeah, so and for me and my friends who actually went to high school, like we had like a reference, but even like other people that maybe did the generic high school before engineering, then they still like after 3 years they still didn't learn anything to actually put your hands on. So definitely like it was different. But during high school I learned so much, and we all actually, my high school was one of the few that actually we did like internship.
Yeah.
So 1 year for like a month I was doing internship of like I was like the IT technician in town hall. So we were like me and my friend, we were going around town hall fixing all the problem that people were having with their computers. So
Wow.
even that kind of stuff was like I learned so much there. And another
So
year I
you
was
learned
doing,
more in high school than you did in college, which is kind of the opposite here, whereas high school is just kind of
yeah.
throwaway, and it's college where you kind of start learning stuff. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that was very different. And then I did also like 1 month like in a architecture firm. So then there I learned how to use AutoCAD, where like you can like do maps and stuff like that. And I've been using all those like skills, like
Yeah,
even in the jobs I've been doing here, because I've been working like as a production specialist for like events
yeah,
and like facility management of the Egyptian theater I did.
yeah.
So
You
like
talked
even
about
like all
that.
this
Yeah.
stuff. Like I would always fix the problem that people had with computers. Like I was always doing. I learned that when I was in high school, and like when I plan for an event, I create the map of the space, and that's useful so people can have a visual reference of like
This is a
how
little
it's
off
gonna look like.
topic, but do you think that this country should adopt some of that
Yeah, I
to
mean,
their?
definitely there is so much. Like it's half enough. Obviously, I think Italy
Yeah,
needs to adopt something from this country
yeah,
there, and and Italy,
yeah.
like definitely, like this country needs to learn from Italy too. So there
Because
is
I like that
definitely,
idea, the problem solving that you're going into. You're getting your hands dirty so that you know it's that practical
yeah.
feeling as opposed to what really a lot of it's theoretical. And
Yeah, and that's the issue I've been seeing. Like working with a lot of people, like in this country, I think people learn everything by
yeah,
heart, and they're
yeah,
not learning how things actually work. So then, when there
yeah,
is a problem, they don't know what to do because they just
yeah.
know, okay, this is how it works. If it doesn't work that way, what should I do?
Well,
And
when you
that's
talk
that.
to like filmmakers that come through, come through a school or whatever, if it's not like written exactly as it is, like they're not as good at problem solving as
Yeah,
like well, we don't really need the dolly. We could just put it on a rolling chair and roll it, and it will get the same thing. And they're like, "What do you mean?" It's like I don't know. Have you come across
yeah.
a
I mean,
lot of
and I
that?
think like in general, like any workplace I've been, it's
Yeah,
like that's where I love doing mediocre schools, honestly,
yeah,
because like I see people that everybody complain about, even like that school that for like filmmaking that I did, but I learned so much because I
yeah,
was the one asking question to the
yeah.
teachers. Like maybe they are not good enough to teach you everything perfectly the way you want it, but if you have that mentality that you know what question to ask and everything, that's what I learned. It doesn't matter if you're going to Harvard, if you're not capable of
Yeah.
learning, Harvard is not going to fix that for
If
you.
they're
And if
not going to ask
you're,
questions about like what is it that you want and in specific and really put yourself into it, it
yeah,
doesn't matter what school. That seems to be part of the problem is we like the optics of like I went to Harvard and I went to NYU and it's like, yeah, but what did you actually do? What did you
yeah,
learn and what did you ask and do you know how to apply it? Or are you just going to be reading from a textbook? Because filmmaking is messy. It's not where you could be like that. Oh, we've got this. Oh, we're losing the sun. Now we've got to change everything right on the fly. It's like it's not this 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's, 1 plus 1 equals 3, but then we got to divide it by this, and then we got to go all the way
Yeah.
around. But sorry, I
But
was interrupting you.
yeah, no, but yeah,
Yeah.
like that, yeah, that thinking, and
Yeah.
me also because like in high school, like we did like physics, leverage, like all that kind of stuff. So to me, I always had this very practical mindset. So I remember I was doing one of the music videos, and
Yeah.
so of course we didn't have a big budget, but the guy wanted like to have the camera up on top and
Yeah.
then the bed to rotate. And so my roommate at the time that he was
Yeah.
actually doing like the design and everything put wheels on the thing, but then when people tried to rotate it, the bed was going in all kinds of direction.
Yeah.
So and they kept trying, they kept trying, and that's also like being a woman like
Yeah.
helps because like
Yeah.
we think in a different way than men. Men just keep pushing because they're like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
strong. You just think about like putting force and it's gonna work out when like,
Where the,
but I
where the
think about
guys were like,
strategy.
well, the girl will be like, why don't you just ask for directions? The guy said, no, 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 I can figure it out.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you just
It's like
need to
2 hours
step
in a
there,
circle.
think about strategy, and everybody was giving up. I was like, okay, if you really want this, like I didn't want to do this thing, but the
Yeah.
actor, the singer who I was making the music video for, which actually is also the guy who did the voiceover for my series
Oh, really?
after.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw
the
the
same
clip
guy.
on there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but because like then he really wanted that, I was like, okay, but so if we put mark like some tape on the floor, you try
Yeah.
to move the wheel towards that place and then towards the next place instead of like just pushing randomly, then we should be able to keep the place in a position like that, or you just like carry that
Oh,
there.
so instead of like having the bed that just like it's got to kind of go in a circle is what
Like
I
it was still
imagine.
going on a circle, but because like the wheels, like it's like the wheels that move in all kinds of direction.
Yeah.
If you start
So
pushing, then
taking
they
the
might go in the
wheels so that they
so
go in one, make sure they go all in one specific direction and
yeah, or
just
like
kind of.
like then I think we were like raising the bed
Yeah.
so that okay, raise it just for this to put this position and then keep going. And so at the end, one take we did it just by
Right.
stopping there, thinking for a second about strategy and how like
And then you could speed it up in the process if you wanted it to go
if
faster.
you need to, but I don't think
Yeah.
even we needed to, so it was perfect.
Yeah.
But that's where like
But
just
yeah.
like plan
But
plan things, think about like how physics works, like
yeah.
so having like all this practical mindset where like I learned
Yeah.
the technical aspect before I did anything else. And
Which is
so when I
great. So
and
you
so
were
when I
able to
was
problem solve, which is one of the most important things to filmmakers. It's like you're not always going to have the budget you want. You're not always going to have the amount of
yeah,
takes you're going to want. You got to problem solve and figure it out. And the really good ones can, figure it out. I interviewed somebody who worked with Robert Zemeckis, and Robert
mhm,
Zemeckis, he did Back to the Future. He comes in, he says, "All right, this is kind of how I want to do it." And then he says to the crew, how are we going to do this? So he's putting everybody, so everybody can be thinking about how can we do this, as opposed to what you see a lot of times is this hierarchy of like, okay, this is what I want, and how am I going to do this? Instead, he's like, no, how are we going to do this so that we can all figure it out and be open to new ideas? I'm sure you've seen that too. There's this hierarchy idea. You must have come across the person who they like the term director, that they don't really want to do the director's work. Like they like the idea of it. It's like people are like, "Oh, I'm a producer," but they don't really want to
yeah.
do anything. They just want the title of producer, or the title of that, and oh, not really
Yeah, I
done
mean,
anything.
there are all kinds of like different directors,
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah, yeah, you've
yeah,
seen different, and like also
yeah,
because I've been the director many times, but I've also been the other
yeah,
person working on the crew so many other times. I've seen all kinds of stuff.
yeah,
But it's funny that you're saying that because like I think I even like how it works here and in Italy it's different because like for me, like as a director, I want to decide also like the shot, how it's gonna look like.
so more cinematography. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
and that's to me it's normal that is the director who decides does
Yeah,
that does everything in that sense. Then the cinematographer does the lighting or like okay if you like the lens we should use this lens and different.
yeah,
But to me either I work with the cinematographer on like how it's going to look like or but I already come with my own ideas how I
yeah,
should look like because when you're the director, you're envisioning like visually how it's going to look like,
Yeah, you need
obviously.
to know. Yeah, I mean that's Frances
Yeah.
McDormand said she likes to work with people who are going to be in the editing room because they know what the finished product is going to look like.
Yeah,
If you
what's
just
going to look like. And
work
so,
with a
and
director who's just like, hey, here's this is the cinematographer. You go set up the lights or whatever. It's like, but you need to know kind of like what it's gonna.
you
You
need
have
to
to
know
have some
what you
idea.
want, obviously. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it was funny because I was reading this book about Antonioni, the Italian director, which I
Oh,
love. He's
really?
also from my region. And he
Yeah.
was saying that when he was going on set, he would say, okay, everybody out. And then he would play with the camera to see what kind of angles he wants, how he wants to do the movement and stuff like that. And so when I was telling that, a friend of mine who was my cinematographer for some like couple of music videos, she was like, "Oh, that's why you're like that." So I guess she's from Russia. So,
That's
but I guess maybe
funny.
it's not that normal that like the director
Oh.
is so hands-on, like knowing what they want. So
I think that's always good to know what you want. Sometimes it can be difficult because you get but it's as a director you need to know what you wanted to do. Otherwise, you're just it's somebody else's vision now. It's no
yeah.
longer
And that like I had to learn, that's why I learned how to do everything, because
yeah
honestly, so when I went to that school, so like the cinema school in Rome,
yeah
so we did the first month of classes, so we got an understanding of like camera, lighting, like just the basics, and then they told us, okay, now make a short movie. Like just
yeah
like after the first month, so then of
wow
course they were bad, and we were like in this historic place, so it's even harder to create a story for an historic place where obviously you don't have the tools to
yeah
make like a period type of piece.
yeah
So
yeah yeah
now
yeah
of course they look very bad, all these shorts, but because like we just ended up just like we started by making mistakes, because that's all it is. That's how
yeah
you learn by making mistakes. And obviously like there I learned, like, because then we had to work with our classmates, and of course some of them want to be doing like cinematography, others directing, so but we all
yeah
ended up like having to do different roles. So but there I was like, I don't know how to express like how
yeah
what I want, but because I was working with someone who relied on me, then I felt like, oh my gosh, my piece is terrible, because like he expect me to know everything. But then I was like, but then the other director didn't know anything, but he was working with the cinematographer who didn't mind like
yeah
doing the work for him. So then I saw these two ways where there are some directors who know nothing, but they still get the job done
yeah
because they hired the right person. And then you
yeah
might have like some director that because they didn't have the right team, then you're
yeah
not going to get the good job done because you don't know how to communicate that. So that's where I decided like I need to learn what I want. In order to learn what I want, I need to learn all the other jobs. So that's
it's
where I learned like, because like in that school, like first year was like you would do all the things, like you would do sound, you would do camera.
yeah
So and then the second year, the second half of the second year, you would actually pick like a major. But then I was lucky because no one wanted to do sound, and I
yeah
don't like specializing in something. I like learning everything because that's just me. I just love knowing everything.
yeah
So to pick one thing and just go for that the same way like forever, that doesn't work for me. But that's
that's
how most people actually function,
so
and they're like, I'm gonna just like focus on one thing and become better in that. But I like learning everything.
you like doing everything. I like
Yeah, so, but then because they didn't have anyone enrolling in sound, they put together the video editing and the sound major together. So I was like, oh, I'll pick that so I can learn two different things
yeah
all at once. And because no one wanted to do sound, then I started doing the sound for other people, like both like filming and
yeah
also learning how to do the editing. So I've been doing that two different times. So that's how for my mini series, then I
yeah
did everything by myself, because I was like, if I have to pay someone to do it better than how I can do it, I would have to pay a lot of money. And
yeah
there is no one that is going to do it for cheap. Then they're not going to be good if they
yeah
accept to do it for cheap. So at that point, like I can do it
yeah
better
yeah
probably.
if you look at it like yeah I paid somebody to do it cheap but like that's what I got was it's like well I can't show this to anyone.
Yeah, and it's like I can do it better, and then I would not pay money. So that's where like when I approach my mini series, I was not planning to do anything. I was just mad
And
about this.
we're gonna get to that in just a minute.
Uh,
I wanted to talk though a little bit about your music videos and kind of how your ideas came from that. Like, what? Just talk a little bit about your music videos.
Music videos, so it depends which one you're talking about. So, I mean, I like music videos because like people make my friend make fun of me because they say that I hate music. I love music, but I
Yeah.
hate concerts. Like I don't like going to
Oh yeah.
concerts. I don't like the crowds. I don't
Yeah.
like their people singing the song. If I'm going to pay to the singer to
Yeah.
sing, I want to hear them, not all everybody else like to sing. So
And
I
it
hate.
almost feels like political. You were talking about politics when you
Yeah.
go to see it. It's like sometimes I want to hear songs that you know they might not want to hear. They just want to hear the hits or whatever. And I'm like, I kind of want to just hear this song that this B track. It's like,
Yeah.
go away. We just
Yeah.
want to hear hits.
Yeah, so I hate that part of I hate the music industry anyway, but I love music. But to me, it's like music is like my like
Yeah.
personal experience. I'm always singing, I'm always listening to music, but by myself. It's not something I want to share. But besides that, the background. So I love music videos because with music videos you can create stories, but without having to be forced to make them in a linear way. Like,
Yeah.
with movies, yeah, as we were talking about, which I love it, everything has to make sense. But also
Yeah.
to make sense, you need to do a lot of work behind the scene, and it costs money to make a story that makes sense. So when with
Yeah.
music video, you can just create an atmosphere. You can just go from something that is in the present to the past, and play with that.
You could be abstract
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this
It
case.
doesn't have to be like going back to when I was, I guess, like doing experimental theater. Like you can do
Yeah.
that.
There you
So
go.
you can still do stories, but in a way that it doesn't have to be linear, doesn't have to make sense. So you can just go with like more.
So now moving on to this is what New Yorkers say. Let me just ask you first off, how did you come up with that title?
Because I mean, I was mad at what they did to Andrew Cuomo, obviously.
Okay.
So they like the media, obviously, they were not doing their due diligence. They were not asking the right question, and they were always talking about how there was this article that came out that was saying that 70% of New Yorkers wanted him to resign, and I was like, I don't believe this. I don't
Yeah.
believe, and all the
It's
polls,
like,
of
yeah.
course. It's a
Well,
poll. Like, how many people they're going to ask?
well,
300
that's the
people.
problem with polling is, I mean, we saw at the last election, the polling all showed this and then, and then the
And then it's
polling
never
came
true. Yeah.
and it doesn't come
Yeah.
through. So it's like the polling needs to change to reflect this climate of the world that we're living in, and it seems like it's stuck in this archaic ideas. But yeah, it was an
Yeah.
interesting title. I like it. It's really catchy. So what like kind of made you like want to decide to do this?
The project, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was just mad. Like, I was like, he's not going to resign. He's not going to
Yeah.
resign. And then he resigned. And I
Were
was
you
actually,
following politics closely at this? Were you living in New York at this time?
no, I never lived in New York.
Oh, you've never lived in New
I
York.
never
Oh,
lived
wow.
in New York. So, like,
Wow.
but it was, I wanted to move to New York. And
Yeah.
I was still living like as a facility manager of a theater, but I was so tired of
This is
the
the
move.
Egyptian theater,
The
correct?
Egyptian theater,
Yeah.
yes. So I was during COVID, and I was just like, I was feeling frustrated because, like, I was tired of the movie industry, of movies, because, again, as I was saying, to me, movies are about like helping people in their lives. It's not
Yeah.
about the industry, it's not about looking cool, it's not about the glamour of it.
Well,
So
talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about your frustrations with the movie industry. Because
yeah, I
that
mean,
would be
like
great.
that's obviously it's a very fancy industry for so many
Yeah.
people. Again, when you film a movie, it's not that fancy, obviously, especially if you make like movies without budget. Like
Yeah.
one time we were doing a movie like in the middle of nowhere, there was not even a toilet, so we had to like do our business like in the middle of nowhere. Like so, it's not always fancy, obviously.
Yeah.
Uh,
I've interviewed assistant director. He was telling me about how they were doing this film called Crocodile and they had a portage on, but they were out in like Mexico or whatever, and it was leaning, but there was also like spiders and
yeah.
scorpions coming out and but the thing was leaning, so you would have to go to the bathroom. You'd fear for your life that the thing would tip over, and all these creatures would come on to you. So like, yeah, it's not always glamorous. People think of it
Yeah.
like it's like, especially for people that have to do the really hard work for the actors, it's very easy compared to what they have to do. They have to get up early. They have to find everything. And like I said, sometimes it's not glamorous. The porn shot is got creepy
Yeah, I mean,
crawling
my
all over.
the first movie I worked on, I was
Yeah.
the what do you call, like the person carrying the monitor, like for the
Okay.
director
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
watch. But it was like old technology, so it was like the CRT monitor, and it was this giant thing that was as tall as me, CRT monitor with like the recorder with the mini DV in it.
So like the video village kind of
It
thing.
was the full video village, and I had to carry that. And one time we were like in a forest, so there were all the roots of the trees coming out, and I had to by myself push that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not super fancy all the
Yeah.
time. So, but yeah, but then I was like, so I was working
Yeah.
in, and I love working in the movie theater. Honestly, it was great because, like in Italy, if you want to work with movies, the only way is you have to make movies. There
Yeah.
is no other real industry behind other way to do it. And working in a generic movie theater, it's not the same thing, obviously. But then the Egyptian theater was so different because I mean they were doing like premieres over there. They were doing film festivals. There was like the gala event once a year was a fundraiser, so they were
Yeah.
giving like an award to like super famous person, like all the famous people in Hollywood. They got it pretty much. So so it was like a very different place where actually, and I love the environment of a movie theater. I always wanted to work in a movie theater because I just love being
Yeah.
inside of them. And so working at the Egyptian theater was great. And I found myself being the facility manager. So I was doing practical things while working the events,
Yeah.
obviously. So it was a mixture of like where I could put like my practical background into that, but also creative and planning and everything. And it was all about events there. So it was really great, and I loved it. But then during COVID, I just started feeling like, oh, yeah, we could do so many things with this movie theater, like to help
Yeah.
the community. Like, there were still movie theater open selling popcorn, so there would be a
Yeah.
place where people can still come and buy them, even if you don't make money. There were places like that. There were
Yeah.
places that could be a place where like you could get your vaccine. And they were not doing anything with the theater. Like, of course, at that point, they were in the process of selling it to Netflix, the theater.
Okay, so
So
Netflix
so
owns it.
Netflix owned the Egyptian now, and like now they're managing and everything. So we were in that process. So I was part of that
That's a
transition.
dangerous thing to happen. I don't know if you've heard about the story of that. The theaters used to be owned by the movie studios, and
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
government came in and broke them up as they saw that monopoly. I don't
Yeah,
think
but then that rule expired, so
I know,
now
and
they
now
can
they're going
buy.
back to it, and I'm like, I don't have the same confidence with this government to break up the thing. They're gonna go and go, oh, this is making money for us. Well,
Yeah,
who care? It doesn't matter because what they saw was that this was gonna limit. Independent film hadn't really happened, but if that hadn't have happened, breaking that up, we wouldn't really have had the independent, film
yeah.
theaters and independent explosion of film that kind of happened in like the late '90s and could probably say maybe in the '70s as well. So I don't know. I don't know how we got on there, but
Yeah.
yeah,
No, but the expert Egyptian, and I was against the idea at the beginning.
yeah.
Before I was like, why are you selling the theater instead of like trying to make it work for yourself and giving it to Netflix like a big
And that's why they're
corporation?
showing Frankenstein right now. It's they own it. I
Yeah.
was looking at that. Yeah.
Yeah. But now then I start dealing with the Netflix people, and they're lovely. Like, so I'm
Yeah.
really happy. Like after
Okay,
I
so it
spent
is a good thing. Okay,
It's a
that's
good
good.
thing. Yeah, like I spent like a year and a half, I guess, what 2 years probably, well, because I was still dealing with them after they started owning it, because then they did the renovation. So I left the theater when the renovation started,
Yeah.
which was I think like it was more than a year after COVID started. So I think it was like May of 2021 when I left physically the Egyptian.
Mm.
But I was still working for the same company, but I just was not dealing with Egyptian anymore. But even that, like, so for like 2 years, I was dealing with Netflix people, and I was like meeting with them showing them the place, teaching them everything about the place. And it's really better because those historic places, they cost a lot of money, and because the rules changed for the earthquake in Los Angeles, like they did like for 20 years since the Northridge, they did all their studies on how to make the buildings like safer for the earthquakes.
Yeah.
So they came up with new standards, but now all the buildings had to go through some kind of retrofit, like not all the buildings, but the buildings that were in a specific way. So this one was a big concrete building. So it had to go through a big retrofit that would cost millions of dollars. And so a small company that was really struggling there, like with their bills, then they could not afford that. So selling to Netflix obviously saved the Egyptian and made sure that the standard would be done quicker, and so they did the renovation right away with that standard. But technically, for how the law is, you had like maybe a few years to get an estimate on stuff, but then you had like 20 years to get the theater in compliance. But then in like 20 years, the earthquake is going to come earlier than that probably. So it's like it's a very loose
Well, that's
thing.
the problem I hear about in California is it's hard to get things done because there's so much red tape that you have to go through. You have to go through this inspector, and then the inspector's inspector has to come in and look at it and everything. And it's just like it's hard to, like you said, get it done right there. So you were kind of frustrated with just like you're watching COVID and happen, and you're like, there's things we can do to help the community, and
Yeah.
instead it's just like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah, like instead of just being a movie theater closed, and then they were doing events online, but again, that was just a frustration I was building inside myself, just in general, and I guess I just like felt like I wanted to do with my life something that is more, improving, so be part of society and part of the conversation, improving society. So I was always like, since I was in Rome, actually, that's what I was doing when I was doing engineering.
Yeah.
Actually, I started like studying more about politics when I was doing engineering. So I was going to class, but I was reading my own books because at that point, I was not interested anymore in engineering. So I was like either thinking about movies or politics. So I was learning so much. So then when I was in Rome, even there, I was like interested in more doing like political stuff. I was going to a talk show. Actually, Al Gore came one time. I was a few feet from Al Gore. Yeah, because there was this we have this political talk show in Italy that they're so popular. So it's like where like there is the host, and then they invite different people that could be journalists, could be politicians. So, but politicians are not so separate from the news media. They get more connected. So, like the main politicians that are in government, they still come to this, and everybody gets to talk to them. Like either the newspaper, the journalists, or like could be historians or other people. So there is this conversation that they all yell at each other at a certain point anyway. But
I saw the thing that you did with you were on like a panel with Dario Gento.
Oh, that was a different story.
That's a different. Okay.
That's a totally different story. That was another great story.
I love the original Suspiria and the bird with the crystal plumage.
Yeah, that what was happening. So there was a film festival that they were doing at the Egyptian. So at the
was
Egyptian,
at the Egyptian. Okay.
that was at the Egyptian. Yeah. So that was that film festival, and they were having Dario Argento coming from Italy for that screening.
Wow.
But so because he doesn't like speaking in English, and his assistant, we don't even know if she was speaking English, but they prefer to speak to them in Italian. So I would translate the emails for them so that they could just send them in Italian, and I would translate them back. So I was never a fan of Dario Argento, anything. I don't watch horror movies because that's my sister thing. So, because, like that kind of rivalry. So if it's my sister thing, then I cannot watch them.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's like if I watch them, I enjoy them, but I cannot like them just because it's her thing. So cannot be my thing. But yeah, so then they were having Dario Argento coming, and they were doing this screening of Suspiria, but they wanted to screen the original Italian version of Suspiria, and there was no copy, and it was like print. They want to do 35 millimeter print.
Yeah, that's a hard one to find.
Yeah, so they couldn't find one version with the subtitles in it, but they could find the subtitles separately as a SRT file. So, but then you couldn't put them together. You needed someone in the projection booth while the movie was playing on the print on the digital projector to play the subtitles on top of the screen, but they were in a PowerPoint file. So as a PowerPoint, you need someone manually there to sync them with the movie as the movie is playing. So then I, so then they got me to do that, which it sounds very complicated, but it's actually very simple because it's crazy how the brain instantly can put together what it hears with what it sees on the screen, and it's like, okay, now it's time to the next one. So they had me to do that, and
So you're watching Suspiria and you're also hitting the
yeah, like
button on
I'm syncing the PowerPoint. But before that, before even the screening, so he was coming in person for a conversation, and but he was there for like a few days, and then he wanted to know who was the person speaking Italian. So he asked to meet me, and I didn't really care because I was never a fan or anything. Like, I'm happy to meet anyone, but it's not that I was like everybody else. They were all fans of Dario Gento, so they all wanted to talk to him, and they all want to talk to him about their own lives. And then he talked to me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. Oh, which sushi place are you going to eat food?" So to me,
And he probably liked that because he's
he
so tired
loved
of
that.
hearing about, Kate, when you were doing Suspiria and the thing comes down there, did you know it's gonna, like it's like, yeah.
Yeah, he loved that. So he was like, "Oh, are you joining us for dinner and everything?" And then
Oh,
we
that's
just
so
kept,
cool. So you
and
got to
then we
just be
just
like a,
kept talking.
a friend with him. That's awesome. Instead of
Yeah,
like,
right away. And like, I was still minding my own business. I was like, he's not gonna care about me anything. And then one time I was on the phone and I see him around like searching for me and was yelling my name. He couldn't see me. I was like, oh, he was looking for me still. And then the day after, I had to do the screenings of Suspiria, obviously. So I couldn't go for dinner with him and the rest of the team because I had to, the screening would not happen without me, obviously. So Henny was like, "You don't even have time for a salad?" And I'm like, "Well, no, not really." So
So that's awesome. So you're seeing all this happen. Going back to like COVID, you're seeing COVID. You're seeing kind of what's happening. You're frustrated, and now you're seeing what's happening with Cuomo, and that's frustrating you. So
yeah, that's where like so when I was still at Egyptian, like I had nothing really to do except like the maintenance and some stuff like that, coordinated with Netflix, whatever they needed for transition and everything. So, but what I was mostly doing was I was like watching press conferences. So like the health department conferences, the mayor of Los Angeles, the governor of California press conferences, so I could update the rest of the company that they would not do this kind of work about like, okay, this is what we can do. They're saying we can open maybe then. These are the rules. I was like going to the NATO, which is the National Association of Theater Owners. It's different NATO. It's not.
Yeah.
It's kind of
When you
like
said
this.
NATO, it's like, wait, that
Yeah, I
one?
was going to NATO from Egyptian
Go to the NATO
theater.
summit?
Yeah. So, but it's the trade organization that deals with like movie theaters. So they were in touch with governments to talk about the reopening. So I was like going through those meetings they were doing every week. So I was updating the company about all of that. And then because my algorithm at this point was all press conferences, YouTube started suggesting videos of Cuomo, which at this point he was so popular everywhere, but I don't watch television. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't have a television. I don't like watching television. So like I mainly like learn from whatever it's like my YouTube algorithm, social media. I'm reading the news, like newspaper and stuff like that. But I didn't know that that was a big thing that everybody loved him during COVID. I just start watching. And also I'm very disconnected from stuff. Like when everybody likes something, I'm usually the person like, I'm not interested. So
So you like to be the contrarian.
yeah. I'm the type of person. So if someone is already super popular, like, yeah, and that thing needs to be really, really good to get me. Like the Harry Potter, I didn't want to watch it because everybody wanted to watch it, but then I ended up watching it and then I loved it. So now I love the Harry Potter. And the same with Lord of the Rings. So like, so if something is really good, I really love it. Once I watch it, I love it. But I usually tend to postpone the watching it if everybody
So when
else
the media is
thinks.
coming out and they're sending you advertisements, the best movie of the year,
Yeah, I'm not
so
watching
million
that.
people, you're just like, no. That has the
Yeah.
opposite effect. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes that's how I
but
feel.
then
Like
when
it's like,
everybody hates someone, then I'm like, oh, now I'm interested. Let me see. Well, like there must be something good about this person too. If everybody
like,
hates him, I'm like, okay.
when I yeah, like when I watch The Force Awakens and like everybody's cheering and everything, I'm like this movie
Like,
sucks.
listen, I'm a Star Wars fan too, so
Yeah,
but the original ones, obviously. So
so like when I watch that, I'm just like, really? This is like sometimes I don't know. I'll go to those like premieres and you're with these super fans. It's like anything could flash on the screen and they'd like it, and I just feel like, really, this is what you like this? This isn't good.
yeah.
So yeah,
So, but yeah, then I started
yeah,
watching videos of Cuomo, and I just loved how he was talking about government,
yeah,
and like how government is there to make the life of people better. Like his dedication,
yeah,
how he was talking about everything. I just like loved that,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it was just so different than everybody else. So then I was like, oh, maybe that's what I want to do for my life. What he's talking about.
Yeah.
Not this, not movie theaters, not the movie industry. Like making movies is great and it's a great way to communicate.
Yeah.
But I really want to help other people. I want to do improve things in society. And
Yeah.
especially now that there is so much division, especially it was a little less back then, I guess,
Yeah.
but it was
Now
still
it's just
like very
getting worse.
strong. Yeah, now it's
It didn't
worse.
get better, it got worse.
Yeah, so but I was like feeling like, oh, I want to help like people, like even what we were talking before,
Yeah.
like improving like the school system, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, like that stuff that excites me, like to learn from different country, learn from the different experiences and put it together to pick whatever works and not pick
You
whatever
remind me of
doesn't.
like James Cameron. James Cameron's making all these movies and then he was like, I really want to go underwater and discover these things because I feel like this is more interesting than what movie making is doing. It really wasn't until I think it was Lord of the Rings that actually brought him back to filmmaking because he was like, okay, now I kind of want to do this again. So you kind of remind me of that, where
Yeah.
you're just kind of like, I've seen this, but it's like, how do we get to like the real heart of things? So you're doing this. So like, was this something that you mulled over for a while to make it into a documentary, or did you just
I mean, it was a very sudden decision, a very reckless one.
right?
So
Okay.
yeah, like no, but that's how I was feeling. And then
Yeah.
so before even the accusations were made against him, so this we're talking about, I start feeling this
In
um
March
like maybe like yeah
2020.
May June of 2020. So we're talking
Oh, okay,
about
okay. We're going
the
even
year
back.
before. So then I was keep thinking maybe
Real
I want,
hardcore.
and I always want to live in New York, but I
Yeah.
found a cheaper way to come to Los Angeles, and the
Yeah.
visa process complicated. So you have to think about a lot of stuff before moving to another place,
Yeah.
obviously. So I was like, but I'm so frustrated. And I was dealing then at that point, a year later, we were dealing with the reopening of the theater. And it was so frustrating dealing with people. And also, I was at that point, I was actually studying business
Yeah.
because I was like full time studying business. And then I was also at that point, it was full time actually working at the theater, kind
Yeah.
of like as a practical training. So that's how it kind of it's called. Um,
Now, when you say you're frustrated with the people, like what were you frustrated with, like specifically? Like,
just the way they do business. So the
okay, so
people that
not
were
patrons, like
no,
just
not the pictures. No, the pictures. I
okay.
mean, I don't think like the pictures are. There are some people that are so obsessed of movies that they go to movies. That's all they do in their life, and they go to movie theaters 5 days a week. So I would
Yeah,
not
I've
say that
seen.
I
Yeah.
was impressed. But no,
Yeah.
the pictures were fine. It's just like then when we were doing the reopening of the theater, and now the people in the management they were dealing with things.
Yeah.
And they were not caring about the picture and the safety. They just cared about what they cared for, which is always programming. And so that's where it was. Like to me, if you have to run the business, you have to run the business, and you have to
Yeah.
care for what your audience cares for.
Yeah.
You have to care for their
Absolutely.
safety. You cannot just be like, oh, but we are making movies. We have like famous people, so we can do whatever we want. And that's what was frustrating me of the movie industry. That's like, oh, because you're so cool, then
Yeah.
everything has to go around you, and you don't care about the safety. And like,
Yeah.
I was also studying business at that point, so to me, like all the behind the scenes stuff was important. How you do properly, like how you do your taxes, how do you properly do
Yeah, I mean,
business.
people got mad at, Tom Cruise. He had that video that came out,
Yeah,
he's yelling at the crew, but
well,
like what he's saying is true. It's like,
yeah,
look, you guys screw up, we're all screwed, like this is so important that, we have to follow these protocols. I can't have you coming around and being like, "Oh, I don't need a mask. Who cares about a COVID test?" It's like, like we're trying to be the first movie to open, and it's just like that. And it's, yeah, I see what you're
yeah.
saying. That lackadaisical idea of just like, well, this doesn't matter. It's like, no,
Yeah,
it
and it's
does
like
matter.
it's this type of people that are like, I'm not talking the super high
Yeah.
people, like, and they're like, if we have like someone famous or whatever, it's Dario or Gento, someone else, okay, we have to bend all the rules just to
Yeah.
please this person. But those people, the super famous one, usually they're fine. If you tell them there is a rule, you cannot smoke here,
Yeah.
you cannot block the aisle, they're fine. But
Right.
because those people want to please them, then they are willing to make like endanger like the
Okay.
safety of like the
Yeah.
audience,
Yeah. They're
blocking
like,
aisles.
I want to walk this way. I'm sorry, sir. There's a wall there. Just bang down, break the wall down. Everything. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
we'll fix it later.
Yeah, like I'm obsessed with like emergency aisle, and like in this
Yeah,
country
that's
we
good.
did like training for the run hide fight for like active shooters. You cannot
Oh
block an
wow.
aisle just because you want to sell more tickets, and it
Yeah.
was so frustrating to me, that kind of mindset. And I was the one defending safety and like all the
Wow.
rules when no one else cared. And so I mean, before my time, they didn't even do safety testing for the sprinklers. Because
So it's
because the people that worked there, they were all like creatives, which is not creative people that make movies, it's just people that watch movies.
yeah.
And so they would not even think about, oh, we had these sprinklers for 20 years, we never did some testing to them, and maybe we should test them.
That's a fire. It's like the sprinklers aren't coming on. Oh no, we're all gonna die.
Yeah, so I was that person, and then like they were annoyed by me at that point because I was always like, well, actually the
They're like,
rule, the
there's
law says
Sarah.
this.
There's Sarah. Sarah's gonna like us, put in there,
Yeah, so they would bypass me because I would always bring up these things. And so they were trying to avoid me. But so then I was frustrated, and we were opening the theater, and they were like, oh, we're going to do this. But, and they were like, okay, we know how this system works. Deal with us instead of like giving the job to someone that never dealt with anything.
Yeah.
And so we were working like 12 hours a week, like a day every week for like a month and a half or something like that, weekends included, just to reopen, because there were so many things that needed to happen for the theater to be reopened. Like you
Yeah.
had to do like the partitions, the mask, having supplies, creating a new system so that like you would not sell seats next to each other because you have to block them off. So we had to get a new POS system. So there was a lot to do, and I was just frustrated, and I got so mad. I was like, okay, what's going to make me feel better right now? So this was in
Yeah.
June of 2021. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm going to just go to Albany. So I just got my credit card and I bought a ticket to Albany, New York. That's
Wow.
where the governor is. And I'm going to
Yeah.
like, I'm going to just go there and see if I like it. I have no plan. I just want to see if I like Albany, if I like the idea of government, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
then I'll
Yeah.
decide if I want to move there. So then I got the ticket, and then I was there. I like I left Albany the day that the report of the Attorney General against Cuomo was released.
And that
So
was that was in
2021, that was August of
that's August.
2021.
Yeah, August.
So that's exactly when I was leaving Albany. That was happening. It was getting released. And at this point, I was already like thinking, I want to live in New York. I want to work with government. And then
Yeah.
this happened. And then Cuomo resigned. And then I was like,
Yeah.
this is wrong. This is how it was dealt, the situation, how it was done. The politicians, like as soon as there was the accusation, I got scolded one time, like talking about not being able to defend yourself. This was
Yeah.
like in March of 2021. We were doing a Zoom meeting,
Yeah.
like a meeting via Zoom. I was at the theater still, and I have no, like I get like the notification on my computer every time something happens, like the like when you subscribe to the newspaper, you
Yeah.
get a pop-up notification on the computer. And so there was like this, we were in this meeting, and this pop-up notification says Chuck Schumer is asking Cuomo to resign. My reaction was this. I did like all this space. And then a couple of days later, like it was because of that, not because the meeting was a technical thing. It was nothing, but I was in a meeting on Zoom. 2 days later, I get a call from the HR scolding me for making faces during the meeting. and I'm
Making
like, and I'm like,
that's funny.
and I'm
I know.
like,
Like, who see that's my problem with like a lot of I don't know if I would call that PC culture, but
yeah,
it's just that this thing. It's like it doesn't really affect anything. Whether you're making faces, it's just like we're just complaining for the sake of complaining. It's like so what? Did that kill the meeting? Is the meeting completely like you would think with like a comment like that you stood up and were in the background throwing your computer across the room and it'd be like it's like no, you just made a couple of faces. So it's that kind
yeah,
of
and like
idea, that common sense that we've kind of lost, where it's like somebody says something and we're just completely like, no, that, like everyone has to be like, I'm really nervous about like, now with AI, we're able to like anything that you have
yeah,
ever
you can
said
make up
on anything,
anything.
but anything that you've ever said, even if you delete it, can now be brought up. So it's
Mm.
like a permanent record of your life is on Twitter or whatever. And it's like if you deleted it and it's no longer there, we shouldn't be able to like bring it back. Like what is the statute of limitations on how far back we can go? You said in 2015 that you didn't like so and so. I'm sorry, but that's cancels you. We can't have
Yeah.
you anymore. It's like where are the statute of limitations on that? That's something that I thought you did kind of touch on, is that idea of the common sense, and just bringing it up. It's just like, why is that like
Yeah, and also like
weird?
if there is a problem, that's fine, but
Yeah.
let's talk. If you had an issue with me,
Yeah, but
like
it's
doing
not.
my
I
face,
just went to AR and be like, okay, someone so's doing this, and that's that. And then you get the comment, and it's like, we've heard some complaints. Some people started
yeah,
making faces, and it's like, well, who made the complaint? Oh, that's not relevant. We can't talk
yeah,
about
you
that.
cannot say that.
We
That's what I
can't. We
said.
can't talk
Like
about. We
like
can't
they
talk about
didn't
who did it.
like they didn't say it was in that meeting, but that was the only meeting I've been. And so I was like, "Are you sure it's not because of something else?" And then they couldn't talk. And the HR is on my side because like we're pretty close because I'm the only
Yeah.
one who cares about safety and about
Yeah.
rules.
Of
So
course.
so we
Yeah.
were close, but she had that role. So because someone complained, now she had to tell me.
And
And
you
but
know
that
why they complained, because you've been,
because it
hard
was
on
Chuck
them about
Schumer. It
hard
was
on
because
them
of Chuck Schumer.
about the ordinance and stuff, and they see you as a pain and like, oh, this is our way to get back at her.
Yeah, and no, and
Yeah.
that's what it was about. Like a few days before that, me and the other two manager, we met together to complain about how we were being treated by
Yeah.
some of the people in the company. And then suddenly, one of them got pulled out of the job. Like they put him in a different department, and I got
Yeah.
scolded for rolling my eyes. So it's like, okay, are we sure that like you're really offended by me? Like also,
Yeah.
these are all men that are in the meeting we're talking about. So now you want to tell me that you got so offended by me rolling my eyes in a meeting where like we're obviously on computer. You don't know what else I'm doing here. Could be
Sarah,
for
I've got to be
anything.
honest with you. When I saw you roll the eyes, I decided that I can't work here anymore. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's like and everything can be solved. Like even if really there was an issue, but again, it's not about the issue. It's about power. It's
Yeah.
about using this. I'm
Yeah.
offended, so I can use it against you when it benefits me.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
what
that's the
frustrates
danger
me.
of, yeah, the I'm offended things. Like, okay, you can be offended, but we're not going to just change the whole world because you're offended, and that seems to be the world we're living in. I'm offended, so therefore this cannot exist. Instead of like, why don't you just not watch that show or something? Just turn the
Yeah.
channel. Why if you're offended, like we've used offended so much that now it's lost the value of the word, where now nobody takes it seriously, whereas it
Mm.
used to be like, okay, we can take that seriously. Now it's just like any other word, like I'm mad. Oh, okay, well, we'll put it under the mad column,
Yeah.
like. But offended, we've like, that's the danger of this, is offended. The same thing you kind of touch on with the Me Too movement is, it's just like, if everybody's complaining and it's just about anything, when it's about something that really is the matter, how do we give the different degrees? Which is a serious complaint, and which is this? Like, what do we take every single thing seriously? Like, there's no ordinance of where it goes. Anybody can say anything. Like, what are the statute of limitations of this? You know, you look
Yeah.
at what's his name, Army Hammer, who got like canceled because he's kind of a vampire or whatever. But it's like, but how do we not know that they liked it? Like, if anybody can, like, at that moment now that they were fine with it, but now 3 years later it's like, well, now
Yeah,
I'm
they're
no
like,
longer
oh,
fine
actually, I
with
was
it.
offended.
Actually,
Yeah.
now I'm offended. Okay, get him out of here. Remove him from the world. Put
Yeah,
him in a box.
and that's what at the end of the day, like, my documentary is all about. It's about due process, because it's
Yeah.
not just about a politician not getting the process, but it happens, like, you see, every day in everybody's life. Like,
Yeah.
how my situation about Chuck Schumer, like, I didn't get any due process there, or like, it was a stupid situation.
Did they know you were upset about the Chuck Schumer thing? Like, could they
Like,
see
I
that
was
part of
trying to
it?
explain, it's like, are you sure that this is happening? Because during the meeting I was looking at the other stuff, and they were
Yeah.
like, no, 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 it was not that. And it was like, no, they're sure that you were rolling their eyes on them. It's
So
like,
they think they were rolling your eyes at them, so they're just using it as a thing. Yeah, I mean that's the frustration. It's like there's no everything can be weaponized now
yeah.
in this world we live in. So that's what. So talk a little bit about, like, what did you find? Did you find anything difficult about approaching this subject? Was there something that you learned that you weren't expecting, that you were shocked?
I mean, the filming was a little difficult in general for other reasons, because so
Okay, yeah,
that what happened. So then he resigned like a week after I left Albany, pretty much. So I was like, I need to do something. This guy didn't get due process. This is wrong. How the media dealt with it. There are so many questions about the Attorney General report. It makes no sense. The politicians were asking for him to resign even way before the report came out. Anyway, so I have to do something, and no one was doing anything. Everybody was just so overwhelmed, and it pissed me off.
yeah,
This pisses me off about people were like, they're like, we love you, and then as soon as something happened, they forget about you, and I
yeah,
hate that about society. That's where I'm a contrarian, because like,
yeah,
if I like something, I'm gonna really like it, and I'm gonna
yeah.
put my effort in that. And I don't like how flaky people are in society, where they're very generous in a ways in that sense about their judgment. I love you that. Okay, if you love something, put your effort on it. So I
Yeah.
just hate about like people
Well, it's that question of,
talk,
like,
talk,
do
talk.
they actually love it, or do they just love it in that moment, and then as soon as somebody does
Yeah.
something
Yeah, and
bad,
love that how they make them feel be part of the community, or they just say they don't
yeah,
care about him, but they just say it because they want to be liked by other people.
yeah,
Like now it's convenient to hate Donald Trump. If you want people to like you, just tell them that you hate Donald Trump, and you're gonna have friends right away. It's so simple in
becoming a
society.
thing,
It's
yeah,
like you don't even need to know anything about him. Doesn't need to be genuine, but just because you say something, people are gonna be like, "Yeah, good girl, you're amazing." So
there's no substance behind it. It's just like,
yeah,
I just don't like it, so therefore I
yeah.
don't
So I
like it.
hate that of
Yeah,
people, and so I was so mad when like no one was standing up for him after they loved it so much. It's like I have to do something here. So then I would just frustrated from the theater I was working. That was a different theater, but same company at that point.
yeah,
But I was like, I just started like following stuff online on Facebook, and then suddenly Facebook started suggesting me these Cuomo supporting groups. And they had like maybe 50, 100 people following, but I was like, if I can find anyone, any community support of me, like that I'm still thinking about Cuomo, let me just see what they do. And then they were actually meeting every week. And they had one meeting where they invited someone who was coming to defend Cuomo or anything. So I
yeah,
just joined. And so I just found this group of people, and I don't like social media. I like social media, but I like to keep it separate. Like,
yeah,
I'm not the type of person that makes friends on social media, that kind of stuff. Like, I like having my friends. I keep connected on social media, see what people are doing, see
yeah,
what people are thinking. but I'm not one of those people that are obsessed with social media, that they have to spend every second of their life just
Yeah.
posting. I don't write what I think on social media. I just
Yeah.
like seeing what people are saying.
Well,
So
there's the two. Sure, there's people who post all the time. Then there's people that like just kind of doom scroll, and they're just
yeah,
like living their life, just scrolling. Because it's almost like the way like Instagram and so many of these things are designed. It's almost
yeah,
like it's almost like gambling. It's like, well, what's the next one gonna be? Oh, but the next one, and then the next one, and it's a
that's
never
true.
ending. It never reaches like on the Instagram wall page, it never reaches like an end where it stops scrolling. It
Yeah,
just
that's made on purpose.
continues to scroll, and it's to me that's a danger. Like usually you have an ending to something. There is no end. Like
Yeah,
you could
that's
spend your
that's
whole
made
life just
24/7.
scrolling.
Yeah.
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 Like
So,
it just
but
keeps
yeah,
creating things. Yeah.
yeah, but that's where I was like, okay, I
Mm.
found this group, and on I went to a meeting, and then on the second meeting, I came up with the idea. I was like, well, I don't know what I can do. Everybody wanted to help there. I didn't really know them. Like, I didn't really say it. It's not that we talk or anything, but I was
Yeah.
there. I was hearing these people. They all wanted to help Cuomo
Yeah.
somehow, like helping with his reputation, cleaning up everything, bringing the truth out. And so I was just thinking in my head, like, what can I do? And then I was like, well, I know how to make movies. I've done that throughout my
Yeah.
life. I have the equipment. Maybe I can just, and at the beginning I was thinking something small. Maybe I can just go to New York, interview people,
Yeah.
or whoever wanted to talk about it, and maybe we
I,
can
I
just do
wanted to
something.
ask, how did you decide on the people to interview? Were you just picking
Well,
random
that's
people?
part of the story that
Oh,
I'm
okay, okay,
saying.
okay,
So I
okay.
was with this group of people online that I didn't know, but on the second meeting, I was like, okay, what I can do is to make interview people and that. So then I just, since these people were also trying to help, I emailed them and I said, I came up with this idea. I want to do the videos. I'm gonna do everything by myself. I have equipment. I'm paying for my travel, but I would like to, if you can help me to find people to interview, I'll travel to New York and to interview people.
Yeah.
So originally it was going to be like something small again, so just maybe people that knew more about this topic and something like this. They
Because
loved
there's
the
part of
idea.
it in like Union Square, I noticed. Like where
There,
you
there
were
were like
there.
three peoples there, yeah.
Three. Okay.
Yeah, those were random people that we found on the street. So that
So
was my
that was random.
idea.
Those were random. Okay.
Yeah, random people. Yeah. So then my idea was I'm gonna travel around New York State on my own expenses, on my own everything, and I'm just meeting people there to interview. Then these people decided to travel with me. So then we decided to make like, okay, we can travel together. They pay for their own stuff. I pay for my own stuff. And if they know people that want to talk about these topics, and then so it was supposed to be half and half, like
Yeah.
finding people on the street, strangers, and then also having some people who might know something more, who have been following this topic, to talk about it. So, but it was very loose. And then the more I was writing down about these topics, there were like so many topics that felt like we needed to discuss, because it was not just about Cuomo. It was about the Me Too movement, how there are
Yeah.
always this movement that then it's not just the Me Too, but they just like end up being these political tools, and then
Yeah.
you cannot even question them. So you cannot even like question a woman, because now suddenly you're going to be canceled. Your life is going to be ruined just because you question the accusation that
Question
some
the
woman.
accusation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've seen that stuff also with the BLM protests. But every
Yeah.
time there is a new movement, like you cannot question anything. And
Yeah.
like we were saying before, like I don't care if you agree with me. I don't have to agree with you on everything. It's about having the conversation. It's about
Exactly.
being able to ask questions. But
Do
if
you,
you're saying it's wrong for me to ask the question, that something is wrong.
do you think that's just the way things are going, or do you think it's by design? Do you think that this is happening by design, or do you think that it's just like
I mean,
this is
I
just the
think
future? This is the way the process goes.
I think, I mean, it's. I don't think that every country is this way for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think it's a very specific thing about this country, and it's a
Mm.
positive thing in a way that people are very engaged in these political topics and this conversation.
No, no,
Then
I
maybe
mean
not.
like the stifling of conversation, the idea of like we want this conversation out here, but you can't question certain aspects of it.
Yeah, no, but that's what it is. I think like it's good that there is a conversation, but then the problem is that there are some people that they just want the conversation to go one way. And so they're stifling the conversation with other people that don't agree with them. And then, yes, then there is the question, all those movements, all those groups are being funded by some other groups. So like even now, like it was interesting here in LA, there were like all these ICE protests, how they started
Yeah.
here in LA. And I see all the people I know, they're like donating to Churla, this organization. And then I saw Chris Cuomo actually doing a video where he was talking about actually who funds Churla. So it's the immigration,
Yeah.
how do you say, like fund or something, but
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah. I know
specific
what you mean.
organization. And he was saying that it's actually Chinese companies that are actually funding that. So then like, okay, when like you see all these movements, all these, there is always the question, is someone actually pushing a certain narrative? It's
Yeah. Well,
someone
you
funding?
see what happened with like TikTok. They were pushing that this is Chinese, spyware and everything. But now we're going to give it to this group, Larry Ellison and his group are going to do that. And they're like, we're going to make it efficient. And it's like every time we've seen somebody like that, because one of the things that was great about TikTok that a lot of people love was the fact that the algorithm was so spread wide, like it reached certain people. Whereas you see, YouTube, Instagram, there's a limit to how far it goes at first. Whereas with
But even
TikTok,
TikTok, but even there, like they're saying
yeah,
the type of content that the platform pushes
yeah,
prefer certain. Like even now, I'm experiencing that. Even that, like we try to promote my series, it's a different topic. But even there, like you never know if the reason why people are not seeing your content is because the platform is blocking that.
yeah,
Because I'm seeing like on certain posts, like even like normally like some posts, my followers they see it right away, but on another post, it just shows that it's not
yeah.
even shown to my own followers. So that's the question is, it's the platform blocking certain contents and pushing some other content because it's convenient for someone else.
And I think
So
that's the fear of what's happening with TikTok is TikTok's becoming just like all the other ones where it's just going to be like, yeah, you're not even getting all your followers aren't even going to get it. And it's just like, why? Why are these followers,
yeah,
why are these? And you can't tell me that it's not priority over certain people of who gets out there, Because I mean, celebrities now charge what, 5 million a post to just put out there, So it's like once again, it's what started off as a great thing is now becoming just another cash machine that we can just,
yeah.
rate in the cash and charge people with, as opposed to it being about contact with people and reaching as many people as we possibly can. I feel like that we're losing that. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. Like they're saying, like in China, TikTok, they push a certain type of content, like about like promoting strength. While in America, they push more content like kids, like cats, and people dancing. I'm just that's what I love. That when I take public transportation in Los Angeles because I cannot afford a car, obviously, because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
making
yeah,
a
yeah.
series. But so then when I'm on the bus, I like looking at what other people like what algorithm they have on their phone because they're always scrolling. So
Right.
I like seeing what kind of videos they receive, and it's so different from algorithm, obviously, because depending on the stuff that you search, but it's always like, why do Americans love these videos about everybody dancing? Why they're
Yeah.
so obsessed with dancing videos? It's like,
I know it's weird, yeah, or like cats, doing the thing, or just dog videos, So I
yeah.
watched one woman where she just feeding her dogs, and it's just like, why am I watching this?
Yeah, but
What
that's
do
it
you
makes you
think?
question, is there someone pushing so that Americans become dumber and the other countries become smarter? If
Yeah,
that is the content that you're always, because, and that's the problem, like going back to the educational system that we were talking before,
yeah,
democracy is not going to work unless the educational system is
yeah.
strong because people need to know what they're voting for. And like again
Well,
now
yeah.
a lot of
Well,
people don't know how the system works. So if they don't really know how the capitalism works, of course they're going to be maybe hating that.
well, that's the other thing. I'm like, you see a lot of people, they don't read anymore. They don't
Yeah.
read books. They're not informed on it. One of the questions I'm going to ask is about like when you're talking to like the some of the people that you're talking to. One of the questions I would have liked to have asked them is like, what policies, specific policies, did you like about Cuomo? And I can
Mm.
almost guarantee that like probably two would be able to tell you. And you know, I'm not looking for like, you know, what the actual act was or the, I'm saying like, you know, maybe $15 because he raised the minimum
Minimum
wage to
wage,
$15, the marriage
marriage equality.
equality, like just some of these things. I feel like we have this fear now with politicians where it's not about policy anymore now. It's
It's
about whether
not.
I like the person or not. And I think that's a dangerous place. We need to be about policy because at the end of the day, then they're just celebrities. If
Yeah.
we so politicians are supposed to be about what can we get done in the community, what can we do? You should be caring about what they're doing and hold them to that. You know, that to me is what needs to happen is we need to know about the
Yeah.
policies and hold them to that. If they don't do that, then that's where they should pay the political price of like not doing it. And that seems like that's like four rungs down of like, oh yeah, didn't do the actual things they said they were gonna do. Yeah, that's four.
Yeah.
So that was the one question I would have. Did you ask
But
them that?
it's funny because actually there was an interview that didn't make to the cut, which actually was people that were supporting Trump. That I loved that interview, but I
Yeah,
couldn't put it there because then after I traveled with these people making the
yeah,
documentary, then they start coming after me and they were like threatening me with lawsuits. The people that were helping me to find the people to
really?
interview. So there was all this drama happening as soon as after I finished the filming and I was editing and we were trying to put together an agreement to
Did,
give them a
did they not
role.
understand that like it's you know you're trying to what you're trying to do is like this is what New Yorkers say. So
Yeah.
that
The
is
pro-
going to include some
no,
Trump
no, 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 but they
vote.
were fine with that. It wasn't that.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh, okay.
no, they just wanted to bully me into doing things, these people. So, and that's something that is very common with the movie industry when you're
Yeah.
making a movie independent. Like I talk to everybody, and everybody has that kind of story when they try to make their movie independent, whether it's a short or something. There, everybody has that story of someone that was trying to come after them, and these people. So that what was happening. So after I was still editing, like I paid everything on my own. It was all my
Yeah.
equipment. It was I was the director, the sound designer, the editor, everything. But these people wanted to tell me what to do, and they said because originally this was supposed to be a feature documentary, then
Yeah.
eventually it became a series. But so I was like, okay, what you do, you make a documentary, then you send it to film festivals. That's how it works. You
Yeah.
send it to festival and then hoping for distribution and that kind of stuff.
And that's you kind of originally did that, you know, and then you
Yeah.
decided to make it into a mini series. Is that kind of how
Yes.
this?
So yeah, and then he got into like a smaller film festival, obviously because it's controversial. It's not something that everybody wants to support, questioning those things, as we were saying.
Yeah.
But these people, so they wanted to, they because I found them online. There were all these Cuomo supporting groups online, and they
Yeah.
all had a rivalry against each other. So they were doing things. So it became like this horrible thing. They technically were supporting Cuomo, but actually they were doing it because, again, fame. They wanted to be the ones saving Cuomo. It wasn't about really helping him cleaning his reputation. It was about just being the one. And so there were all these different groups, and that's what I was learning when I was traveling with
Yeah.
them. I was like, okay, this is a little crazy. Like we're here because there are problems in this country. Like it's Cuomo is one case, but how many times there are like these situations like Cuomo? Like we need to give due process
Can
to
you
people.
can you give an example of like one of the things that they were kind of like demanding that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so
without
that
getting into legal?
no, it happened very quick, and they wanted to put it on social media. They didn't want me to send it to festivals. They
Wow.
wanted the documentary to be released right away and they wanted to put it on Facebook so where people could watch it right away for free. Which again, if you do it, even if you do it,
That
then festivals
disqualifies if yeah,
for
festivals won't do
festivals,
it.
everything. So they were accusing me of being like a scam director, telling me that like I just wanted to win awards. I was not in it for this, but it was actually them were having this. So and I wanted to send it to Tribeca, like a bigger
Yeah.
festival. So
Or
I
New
was
York
trying,
Film Festival.
and
You know,
we're
that's when I was
yeah,
that's what I was on.
and I was filming this at the end of October, so it's right now. It's the
Yeah.
anniversary when I was filming it, and Tribeca, the deadline was at the end of January. So I did editing like in 2 3 months,
Yeah.
getting the music done from someone else, color correction, editing, sound design, everything. I did
Yeah.
this like in like 4 or 5 months. But then, right before 2 nights before the deadline for Tribeca, one of the people we interviewed, she sent me an email threat, which she was not even in that conversation. So these people might have talked to her to let
Yeah.
them know what was happening, that we were fighting and we were meeting, trying to talk, understand. And every time it was like I had a week, I had to take it off from work because we were just like on the phone every time texting, and they were like, oh, we want this, we want that, but they were not clear on what they wanted. And so, and the day after, okay, we get into an agreement for this. And then the day after, they were like, no, actually, this and that. So it was like this horrible roller coaster. I was put for a week. And then turns out they didn't even read the agreement I put together. So there was all this crazy stuff. And then 2 nights before the deadline for Tribeca, I get an email from this person that was one of the people we interviewed in the documentary, threatening me with lawsuits if I didn't agree to what they wanted. So at that point, and this
Did
at
you
this
have
point,
them sign releases when you interviewed them?
yeah. So this person signed the release for sure,
Yeah.
and but this was like 2 days before the deadline. It was obvious that they were trying to do this so that I would not make the deadline for Tribeca. And that's all they cared. They wanted to, because they know I cared about doing that, which again, yeah, it's important. But again, it's my first feature documentary. It's
Yeah.
controversial. What are the chances that Tribeca is going to even pick it up anyway?
But the fact
So,
that they're already sabotaging, I mean, you're already up against a mountain as it is, and now
yeah.
they're like, here you go, here's a couple. Now we'll throw rocks at you while you're
Yeah,
going up the
that's
mountain.
how I started. So already it was difficult even to find people to interview because also he resigned. So the people that hated him didn't want to talk because they already got what they wanted. And I wanted to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
but
So
anyway,
wait,
so
so people who didn't like Cuomo didn't want to talk.
no, they didn't want to talk. And then we were trying to get some people. But again, because they're like, why would I be on camera when they already got that he resigned at this point? So, but
Wow.
again, so then overnight, I changed 40 minutes of the documentary because I removed that person and I had to remove another couple that they were Italians and they were so funny and they were Trump supporters. So they were the only Trump supporter there that I
Yeah.
had. I had to remove them because they were friends of another person that was threatening me. So I didn't want to risk, okay, now what this person is
Yeah.
threatening me because it's their friend, and now I'm gonna go through this again. So I was like, I'm gonna remove these 2 interviews and see what happens, but I want to make my deadline for Tribeca. So overnight, I changed 40 minutes of the documentary overnight. And then at that point, obviously, I didn't have the color correction and the sound done there. So then I just emailed them and said, this is like a work in progress. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
not finished, and you can do that. But at least I made my deadline, so
Yeah.
I got my job done
But
with
I
all
mean,
this was
just
happening.
shame on them for doing that. I mean, you're doing all this on your own. You're doing you went to all these message boards. You're doing all this. You're coming up with this. You're doing a difficult subject matter,
Yeah,
and
with
then
money
they
that I
just
don't have,
with
so
money you
it's
don't have, and you're subject to this thing. Wow, that's
yeah, and
so
it was
so.
not over there. So at this point, then got my lawyer. I got a lawyer at that point because anyway I was like trying to get a
Yeah,
lawyer to deal with them, and
which
then
is
by the,
hard. Now you got to now pay a lawyer where
which I didn't have money. Of course,
which
I
you don't
had
have
to
money.
ask
Yeah,
help from my parents and
yeah.
just to pay for the lawyer because at this point, like we were trying to get the lawyer to mediate and to get into agreement what we wanted. But at that point, by just because it takes time to get a lawyer and to
And
talk to
that's
him.
something that I think is frustrating about this country is you, depending on how much money they have, they can prolong the case. They can prolong, how long they can drag things out because they have
Yeah,
the money to do it and
yeah.
forcing
But luckily
you
they
to pay
didn't.
for it. Yeah, no, I
Luckily
don't
they
blame you.
didn't, and they didn't even want to pay money. So they were just bullies. So they
Yeah.
were just like pushing me and.
But the fact that we have to even go through that we're using the legal system as this bully system when there's real subjects out there, and just because you're upset at this time where it's just I don't know,
and
it
and
makes
I
me
was
mad. I'm
and I
sorry.
was stupid. I was stupid. I was trying to uh like get them what they wanted. I was trying to make it work out, and then they just went so overboard that they sent me a letter saying that like my documentary belonged to them. It's like based on what? So
But once
like,
people are difficult, they just they're not gonna. It's not like they're gonna see the light and go, oh, yes. They're
Yeah, it
just
was
gonna
just like
continue making
it
it.
was just like so crazy. And it's like, well, if you think that my documentary belongs to you, like then you owe me a lot of wages, because if
Yeah.
you're saying this is a work for hired and you hired me, then you have to pay all the hours I work on this. Like you cannot afford that, even if you wanted to go that way. So
The
then anyway, like
audacity.
yeah,
This
so
is
but then
like,
again, they never even got a lawyer or anything, but they were just like trying to bully me and like
yeah.
getting their way. And so then my lawyer said, well, actually, you don't have any right in this because I did everything on my own. So, and
Really?
that's it. Then eventually, that nothing else happened. Then eventually I finished it, didn't get into Tribeca, obviously, but then I got into a first, like a film festival.
Yeah.
It was like in June, and it was like a very small film festival. Like it was their first year. So, and there are so many film festivals, and if, now everybody wants to have their own film festivals, but it doesn't mean that they are going to actually put effort and actually get people to attend the festival.
Yeah.
So, a couple of days or the day before, when I reached there, I got an email from the owner of the festival saying that they received a call. Someone is called the theater saying that I don't have the right to my documentary, and they're gonna sue the movie theater if they screen my documentary. So, and then I had to prove at this point that it was my documentary, which of course I registered already with the copyright. I showed them the letter from my lawyer and everything, so they were fine. But this person called the movie theater to claim to bully them so that they would not screen my documentary. And then on the day of the screening, I see she's in the fourth row, this person that was doing this. So she came to the screening even though it was like a few hours away from where she lived. So she
Is
came
she
and
in the documentary still?
no, she's not.
Oh,
She was just one of the people that traveled with me.
she just
So
traveled to help out. So
yeah, yeah,
she's just
just
trying to claim ownership of the.
yeah. So that's what was happening, and then like she made this scene in the lobby, like telling me that I screwed them and all this, that I was supposed to do this, and that. I'm like my lawyer, like he was like we were saying this. You start threatening me. You start sending me these letters. She didn't even see that. It's like, yeah, but where is the contract? Where is the contract? It's like you started threatening me with lawsuit. What contract do you want me to
And
sign?
and you're trying to. It looks bad on you now. You got to sit there and like,
Yeah,
what
now
would
that
this
now
look
sounds
like
like
on
I'm the
paper?
jerk. And
Yeah.
and after that, I think then she was the documentary, and it was funny because then someone came to me after in front of her saying how much he loved the documentary. So at
Yeah.
least I was like, because she was saying anyway that it was horrible and everything, the documentary. So, so then at a certain point they stopped. But I think it was like a year later they actually went to the New York Times, and the New York Times, not about me, but at that point they were starting their own documentary. They found a different director, someone who's an Emmy winner, and the director was. Wanted to make a documentary about Cuomo, but it was they only wanted like my documentary is all about having regular people talking
Yeah.
about the topic. I want to hear from the people, and that's they wanted famous people in the documentary to talk because it's fancier. It's all about that glamour. It's about, oh, we have this famous person talking in the documentary. It's our documentary. Well, I just had the regular people, so it was not fancy enough for them.
They're gonna try
And
and get Cuomo, his thing, his wife,
yeah,
go happening
yeah,
in
he's
Charlotte
not married,
Bennett,
but yeah,
Lindsay
like yeah,
Bolin, and all
yeah, they
going
wanted
over
to have
there.
him in the documentary, and like so sound like they were trying to get this documentary done, and they got donation from a bunch of people. They were like asking donation from like regular people for the documentary, but again, like even the donation,
Yeah.
they are not for profit, but they're not a 501c3, so hopefully they paid their taxes about that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. But that's what they were getting people to donate. But I think they were like a scam because they were like acting as if like, okay, we are an approved documentary, we're the real documentary about Cuomo. We have this Emmy winner director. At a certain point, one of them on social media wrote that it was a Netflix production.
Yeah.
And one time we had a fight because they were saying, "Oh, I'm a producer because I produced something for this documentary." It's like you gave me two headlines, and in the original documentary there were no headlines. But
Yeah.
she was like, "I researched some headlines for you, well, like five, that I produce something, that means I'm a producer. It's like, that's not what a producer is. And so there was all this craziness, and there were that people said, like, no, it's not a Netflix production, but it's like, oh, it's just like he adds some stuff on
But we're
Netflix.
getting to like the real heart of what their problem, that they just want the credit for
Yeah, they
doing
want the
nothing. They
credit. They
want
want
credit
to,
for doing nothing.
yeah. So, and yeah, and they want the fame, they want that's all they care, the glamour about everything without actually putting that work in. And so that was it. But then eventually a year later, so then that documentary never got made, because that's what people do in the movie industry. That's
Yeah.
going back to our original topic. A lot of directors, they want to make movies, they get funding to start the movie, then they don't find enough money to finish the movie, and so then they stop. The movie never gets done. Some people may get paid, some people might not get paid for the movie, and then they just run away with the money because they're still getting paid through the money that they raised. And that's what why a lot of movies are not getting made, because people are like that. They just care about the fame, they get the money, and then they run away. So
And to me, that's where we really need the law to protect things like that. That's where
yeah.
the law needs to protect. Like we shouldn't allow that to happen. This idea of this wild west of just coming in at the last minute saying, "Well, you can't show that because I don't like." It's like you were supposed to help. Don't you want this to be seen, or do you? I don't know.
Yeah, but that's
But
that's the
anyway,
thing. Some people are in it just because of their own personal
yeah.
whatever they care about. And so that documentary never got made, and there were people asking, where's my money? Because then at this point, the probably the director, probably them, who knows who, the money were taken, but they didn't do anything with those money. But
Yeah.
also they didn't even tell the people that there was a risk, because normally when you ask for donation, you have to say that there is a risk involved with your donation, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't. They were like, this movie is going to get done because we have a real director.
Yeah.
And of course, and they were not even saying that they did this documentary after I kicked them out of my documentary. So all
It's
this
all about
story,
optics with them. It's
yeah,
optics.
it was what it was. And then so they went to the New York Times, saying that they were bullied by Cuomo's sister into making them become a Cuomo supporter group. And so they were acting as a victim, that they were just trying to help the Cuomo family. And then the New York Times, who hates Cuomo, they wrote the article without knowing who these people are, who this, like, they're like
Yeah.
artists. They're not artists in the sense that they do this usually, but
Yeah.
multiple times. But there is all this background that the New York Times is not talking about. Who are these people? But they're using the story just so they can attack Cuomo. And this was in 2022. Anytime they could write a story against Cuomo, they would do it. And so
Yeah.
they went to the New York Times, trashing Cuomo at this point, just so they could save their face. So
Yeah. Interesting. One thing I wanted to ask you, the Charlotte Bennett thing, when she got the settlement, $450,000, did you
from the
ever want to
state.
put yeah, from the state? Why did you not put that in the thing? Did you think it took away
It,
from the
it was
story
after. No,
that was
that was
there?
after. That
That
was
was
after I
after.
finished. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so when did you finish it? Immediately.
That was difficult because so
Yeah.
I created the first episode that had the archival footage. The
Yeah.
interviews were pretty much the same. I added some stuff based on what changed, and I cut some other stuff based on what didn't matter anymore
Yeah.
from the original documentary. And then I
Okay.
created the story. So, but every time I was like, okay, I'm done. I thought I finished the editing a year before actually I release it, because I was like, okay, now I finished the editing. And because it's archival footage, I had to go through a fair review with my
Yeah.
lawyer to approve, because I'm not paying for the license for the fees. I'm just
Yeah.
using the clips.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be edited in a way that is, keep pushing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it needs to be edited in a way where like it follows the fair use type of rules.
Mm.
And so I was editing, re-editing based on what my lawyer was saying. So like it was in May of 2024, I thought I finished.
Okay.
And then more stuff happened, because then there was all the nursing home parts that was originally not even part of the documentary, because
Yeah.
my documentary was more focused on the sexual harassment allegation. But then the nursing home became like such a big part of what everybody was talking about. People were talking about at that point in 2024 more about the nursing homes than the sexual harassment allegations. So I added that part, which added 10 minutes more to the documentary. So then you get that approved, and then more things happen. Then there was
So every single time you had to like change something, you have to like go through a whole nother review of the thing. Okay, so that's interesting.
yeah, so that took time. And again, like even it was frustrating even that, because lawyers, sometimes it took them like a month for them to respond to my email because they have so many projects, and like I'm not the priority, obviously.
Yeah.
Then I'm there for like every time, and every time something new happens, so I'm always going back. Okay. And then in December, I was like, okay, I'm done. I got the insurance, because then I had to get insurance, obviously.
Yeah.
But then I had to update my insurance, both because it was expiring at that point and because I had to add the fair use.
Yeah.
So then it was December, and I was like, okay, now I'm done. And then eventually other few things happened. And then he said he was running in March. So then I had to add at least like the headlines that he was running in March. So that made it okay. After this, I don't have to add anymore. But even after I finished that, which like he announced that like I think it was March 1st of 2025, at that point, once I finished editing, I still have to do all the sound design. I have to finish the color correction. The music was already done. But even that, and I was doing the sound design all by myself. So I got started with the other episode, obviously, where there were no it was not depending on the clips, on the fair use. But still, even that, while I was doing that, I was trying to research for a way to distribute it, because at this point I decided to distribute it by myself. So
Yeah.
getting an aggregator instead of like a distributor. And I
Yeah.
I talked to
How did you come? Yeah. How did you come across? Yeah, Apple TV, because that's pretty big.
yeah, I mean, those platforms actually are nice because they allow independent filmmakers like me to put it on their platforms. So when people hate these platforms, actually, a lot of them, like not Netflix, obviously, Netflix is not open, but Apple TV, Amazon, and other
Wait, what do you mean
platforms,
Netflix isn't open? What do you mean by that?
like you need to be pre-approved by them. They need to
Okay.
approach you.
Oh, I
Like
see.
it's
I see.
not something where like you can, through an aggregator, you can send them like your material and then they can
Yeah.
decide. Like Apple TV, Amazon is more open to independent filmmakers, so you can approach
Good.
them as long like Amazon, you can approach them on your own even without an aggregator.
Okay,
Apple
that's good.
TV, you need an aggregator. So an aggregator is kind of like a distributor, but they're not doing.
Middleman kind of thing.
It's a middleman, yes. So they're making sure that what you're sending them as the passes the quality control that you have to go. So like the caption, there are no issues with the export, all that kind of stuff. But then they don't take anything, like they take a percentage or you pay them a specific something, and then it depends on the deal. There are different deals different from the platforms, but it's not like a distributor that the distributor does the marketing for you, and so they take away that kind of rights from you, the distributor. While and I found like a sales rep, and I spoke to a couple of distributor, but after talking to them, I realized that I'm gonna just do it by myself, because what they can offer me is the same thing that I can do by myself.
Yeah.
And the only thing I don't know how to do is marketing. But let's be honest, they're not gonna put money into promoting something of like a new filmmaker. So even if they say they're gonna put $10,000, they're not gonna put that money, and they're not gonna do anything that matters. So I was like, I'm gonna just do it by myself. So I found an aggregator, and I mean, and things like organically worked out or didn't work out at the right timing, I guess. Because then I was talking to an aggregator. It took them like a month for them to give me a price. Then they told me a price. Then I said, "Oh, can I do just one platform at the time?" They said yes. And then they said, "Well, actually, no, we told you a lie." So then you're dealing with like all these things, like we are dealing with other companies, and then they do things in their own way, and then every time they take back what they say. So it's a lot of back and forth. So at this point, while I was waiting for them to give me this answer, I was still editing and like editing, finishing the editing, doing the sound, and I had to do the closed caption, because you couldn't put it on a platform without having the closed caption. And a closed caption means the subtitles, but then you have to also write if there is something in the sound that it's important, like the person is laughing, but it might not be obvious if you cannot hear. So it's all about accessibility. So at that point, I had to do that, and it's a super long documentary. People are talking back to back. So if I had to pay someone to write that, it would cost me a fortune. So I decided I'm gonna just do by myself. And
Yeah.
luckily, the technology now it's better. Like the transcribing part with AI is much faster. So
Yeah,
at least
that's the good news about AI is AI makes it so that we can do I think that'll make editing better, especially the
yeah.
color correction. I think that'll be one of the things that will be easier to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about color correction, but definitely like
Yeah,
the
I think so.
subtitles, transcribing, and even that I there was already before AI a few years ago was already fine, but it helped me. But again, even that it's still a lot of work because normally those software are made for like YouTube videos, so where like the way the subtitle works, it's
Yeah,
very different format than the movie industry. So then having to change everything, and then there are rules like you need to have a maximum of 42 characters
yeah,
and there should be two frame in between each titles. It needs to be formatted in like two lines, so
yeah,
it's a lot of work. And talking then I found an aggregator that I liked, which very pricing, and then they were like, I don't know, usually we get a lot of problem when it's filmmaker doing that.
yeah,
And then at this point I was like, I need to release this at least before the primaries, so that like I
yeah,
can spend time talking about promoting and everything.
yeah,
And so it was like so hard because they had to check everything,
yeah,
like there shouldn't be no problem, and the only thing was missing. And they were checking on them, I was still working on the next episodes. And again, I was doing this while I was working full time, so every second possible I was like coming home and at the end of the night and like doing subtitles and all of that, and learning, making mistakes, because obviously, okay, I'm doing the first thing and then I realize, oh, maybe I was supposed to do it this way. And there's so many things that can go wrong. And then I created the subtitles, and then I realized I couldn't export those subtitles with that software. So then I had to do another software. So it was like all this crazy thing. And then magic, miracle, they
yeah.
approved everything I sent them at the first time. Because even if there was something to fix, I would have to pay more and all of that. So, but luckily I managed to get it done by myself without the mistakes. And so it was the first time technically. So yeah, I made it. I made it
Wow.
my deadline.
So Apple TV was that the one that you wanted the most? Did you or think that they were?
It depends. Like I obviously Apple TV, it's a big one.
Yeah.
So I wanted Apple TV and Amazon because I always watch through Amazon, but Amazon didn't accept it.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that didn't happen. I'm sad about that. But then I got it on another platform, and now it's also on Tubi, which is
Oh, it
great
is on.
because
Yeah, you got it on
yeah,
Tubi. Yeah, you do.
yeah, so now people can also watch it for free. There is advertisement, obviously,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's now it's on 5 platforms, so that people have the chance to decide. And yeah, it was a long story.
Wait. What are the five? So we got Tubi, Apple TV, and what are the other?
Apple TV, it's on YouTube,
Oh, it is
and
on YouTube. Okay.
yeah, you could just search it. It's on YouTube. It's on demand still, and
You
then
have to
it's
pay for it, right?
yeah. It's
Yeah.
all for
Yeah.
pay except Tubi TV. And then there is this platform called Zumo, which is like with the X,
Okay. Yeah,
Zumo,
I've heard of
which
Zoom.
is
Yeah.
yeah, which is one of those free. But I think with that one you need to have a specific device, or you
Okay.
on television, or you can just watch it from the computer. And then it's also on Google Play.
Okay. So good. All right. That's good. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a that's a lot of work that you had to go through, but I'm amazed. I mean, you got it done. So, what would you say the future holds for you?
Well, it's hard to say. Right now, I just quit my other job so that I could focus more full time on this, at least for this month, since the
Yeah.
election is in a couple of weeks. I don't know when you're going to release this, but
Yeah. We'll
we're
see.
like 2 weeks from the election. So now I was like, the job I was doing, not the Egyptian, I left it 2 years
Okay.
and a half ago. But for a year, I was working both at Egyptian and another place. So I've
Now
been
you're
at
in
that.
LA, right?
I'm still in LA. Yeah, yeah.
You're in LA. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I've been working in different places for like 3 years. And so, but then I was like spending so much time between work and traveling with the bus. it's impossible for me to do any promotion, to reach out and do anything because I'm doing everything by myself. But if I'm always like working so that I can pay for my debt, because I still have debt obviously for the series.
Yeah.
So now I decided to quit a couple of weeks ago that job. And just like focus at least for this month on the promotion.
Do you want to stay in documentary world, or do you want to move on to
Yeah.
character?
I mean, I like government. I'm still.
You want to focus on government.
Yeah, I would like eventually, like obviously right now I'm still like because of my visa and everything, I'm still like in the movie industry. So eventually I would like government. I like this country and I think there is so much work that can be done here. But I also don't like how people are so negative about this country because coming from another country, I can see all the good parts of this country. So in the future, yes, I would like to work in government, I guess. But we'll see. I'm like,
That's awesome.
I'm open.
That's awesome. Okay, this is my inside the actors studio questions that I ask everyone. Do you have a beginning of the day routine?
Probably yes, but that's probably not something politically correct to say. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Usually I just do the usual business in the morning, like doing my bed, making breakfast, exercise, that kind of stuff.
Do you have a nighttime routine?
I like daydreaming a lot. So
Okay.
daydreaming of what I want, like I don't know,
So
some yeah, visualizing, yeah, like how I want my life to be. So that's my only routine. Like before I go to sleep, I always like dreaming of what I imagine the future to be.
I love that. Do you meditate?
No.
Okay. That's
It's
kind of
main,
meditating what
too
you're
mainstream
doing.
for me. Yeah, it's my own way. I don't like the mainstream meditation stuff, and I'm very hyperactive. So even when I try to go even to places where you do meditation, like sitting there still, it's not for me.
It's hard,
So
but I make myself do it. But yeah, it's everybody's got to get their own form of what they need to do. What do you do for physical fitness?
now it's hard because before COVID, I was doing martial arts. So that was yeah, that was great. But now since I started making this documentary, I don't have time. I don't have the money to go to a gym and something like that. So I'm just doing like just some stuff from home. But at the time I was doing before this documentary, I was doing 2 different martial arts and I was doing yoga too. And I was also doing archery. There is a place near me, so yeah, I love sports. So now I'm like the only thing I do, I just play basketball. There is like a hoop right behind here, so I don't really have time to dedicate. But I just have balls all the time. So either I'm playing soccer in the apartment, or I just go down the hoop and just play basketball. I love that.
That's cool. What are you reading?
Reading books now.
Yeah, books.
Now I'm actually reading this book, learning about my family tree.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, I just learned that I come from this noble family in Italy. So it's a long story, but I've been researching my family tree because I've always been very different from the family that I come from. Because like I want to do this many things, like whether it's movies, government, or being around the world. My family is not like that. And so I started learning more about my family tree and see actually I'm more similar to people in my family tree than actually.
What sign are you? I know that's
Capricorn. I have 6 Capricorns in the first house.
Okay, cool.
So it's like Capricorn Sun, Capricorn raising Sun, and Virgo Moon.
Okay, cool.
So yeah.
What are you listening to?
I usually listen to Italian music actually, but they're like older generation, so it's kind of like the Bob Dylan generation, but in Italy. So they're like similar, more political type of music.
What are you watching?
I don't really watch much stuff anymore.
Really?
Yeah, because I was always working, and I can work in the movie theater before. Then there was a time where I was always staying there in the evening, but then I started making my documentary. So in the evening, I would just come home and work. Then I've been working this other place that they do events. So sometimes maybe I used to watch movies there if I was working, but I had so much work to do. So I haven't been really. Well, I saw this amazing movie the other day. I went to a festival. It's actually a movie. It's a movie from Kenya. and it was the submission for the Oscar from Kenya for this
Okay.
year. So good, and it talks about like children like that are like brides children. So it's a fiction movie, but it's based on a true story, and it was really amazing. So well done. I'm so mad that it didn't get to the Oscars because it was so well done and so important, because obviously talk about this topic that it's less talk about, how like in a lot of countries, and like the numbers were like crazy. Like we're talking about like, what was that, 600 millions. They were saying that there are 6 million,
Yeah.
600 millions like children brides, so around the world. That's terrible. Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Anything we haven't touched on that you'd like to touch on before
I
we?
mean, I feel like we talk about so much stuff, and there is so much
Yeah.
stuff that we still didn't talk about.
I
But
know.
yeah, that would take other 10 hours.
I know. I know. We're already going on. It's like the Joe Rogan show. We've gone long.
Now we have to do another episode in the future.
Yeah,
Like come
just
back
do
to
it.
talk
Just do
about the
that.
after.
Exactly. How can people reach you?
I mean, social media, obviously, it's good. So it's Twitter. This is what New Yorkers say. They can just find that, or they can go to the website. thisiswhatnewyorkerssay.com. So they can find the email. Just they're all the same, pretty much. This is what New Yorkers say at gmail.com if they want to reach out to me by email. It's on Twitter, Facebook. They can follow the YouTube. So yeah, the usual channels.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great. We talked about so many things that I even
know.
forgot. I know.
It's gone far. All right. Well, thank you for being on the DMF.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.